Morning, morning all. Morning, guys. Morning. Good morning, Roxanne. Thank you so much for my brooms. Alberta Sampath, morning to you. Natalie F, morning. Morning out here. Leonard Harris, morning. Holly Legal, morning. 29 Super C, morning to you. Denise Bramble, morning. Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Gillan Jackson, morning, Gillan. Neil Francois, always present, sir. Morning. Gillian Timmerman, morning to you. Who else is there? Ruth Trude, morning. Ruben Rogers, morning, sir. Sally McNeil O'Connor, morning, Sally. Let's see. Althea, Felix Hospitalis, Merle Durant, morning to all of you guys. So, Marlene Panton, Dawn Khan, Jennifer Ferron, David Clark, morning to all of you guys. Hyacinth Richardson, Wazir, morning. Freddie Williams, morning to you. Arthur Lucian James, morning. Angie Sherry, Joan Lawrence, Udani Bruce, Shalana Farrell, J Dimple 66, morning all of you guys. Trevor Carter Nelson, morning sir. Marge France, morning. We have on Facebook, we have Jonathan Carr, morning sir. Deanne Charles, morning Deanne. Gemma White Isaac, morning Gemma. Sarah Richards, morning to you. Andrea Morrison, morning Andrea. Morning Carol, yes, sunny day indeed. Heat, Carol. Good day for the beach. Christopher Siffy, morning sir. Emmeline Harvey, morning to you. Jennifer Dorset, Angela Carty, morning Istra Blake, morning Istra. Joy Ragunanan, morning Joy. Pamela O'Connor, morning to you. Philomena Collins, morning. Chester Giuseppe, morning sir. Bertram Telemac, Ian Andrew Newalo Lee, morning. Marva James, Joycelyn Smallwhite, Pearl Dowlath, Sean Zeba, morning. Jamie McMillan, Winston Jones, Margaret Thomas, Ruckman Gangadine, morning Ruckman, Annette Baird. So, of course, greetings of the day to all of you all who are celebrating Diwali, right? To both the Hindu and non-Hindu viewers. Kurt Shaw, Carlos Fonelli, Alison Boyce, morning guys. So, the Festival of Lights, celebrating light over darkness, but when we listen to some of these speeches and the actions of some of our leaders, makes you wonder. See Dillian Peters, today is Dillian's birthday. So birthday greetings to you, sir. That is Ruckman Gangadine's son. So sending shout outs to him. Have a good one, sir, Dillian. Jenny Bengoshi, Denise Reed, Denise Cummings. Yeah, so to all of those who might be lined up, outside the roti shops, as is the norm on a day such as this, a practice which I stopped engaging in many years ago. To run lineup since 8 o'clock and now 11 o'clock is still waiting. Yeah. So anyway, just saying. So Super C says 29 Super C says not me now. Yeah, but as you know, I'm sure tonight on the various newscasts you will see stories of persons lined up, long lines outside of the roti shop. But nevertheless, have an enjoyable one. Those of you who may have had invitations from your Hindu friends and you will be joining them. Yeah. Ada, is it? Or Ada, Tracy, Donna Seeley, Hazelan Simmons, Tish Rubin. Morning to all of you. Right. So on this, the 31st day of October. Yeah, so just 2 months left in the year, and then as 2024 done, and on to 2025. Donna says, line up nothing, yam and saltfish. I that's a very good meal there, Donna. Joycelyn Smallwhite said, I got up and make my own roti with pumpkin. Oh, very nice. Joycelyn has roti making skills. Gavin Harrison, morning. Angie Sherry says, I want roti and some parsa. I don't know how you're getting that, Angie. Maybe one of our other listeners on those on the live would probably could extend an invitation. Right. Yes, folks. So it is the 31st of October, and what, four days before the big event, which is the American election. That talk of the town, right? So with 4 days to go, we'll see what happens on Tuesday. Who is going to be the victor? But anyway, as an next piece of stress by itself. Adriana, Alexis, blessings to you as well. Right, so let me jump into it because it's already 11:31. My apologies for the late start, but I'm part of the planning team for an event that is being held tomorrow, and it's just been a crazy morning with calls and Zoom meetings and all of that. So let me get this right. So I'll pull this up. So the Prime Minister would have attended the Diwali Nagar last night to bring the feature address, and as you know, there was some controversy surrounding that whole issue, where Stuart Young was originally supposed to have given the feature address, but on account of the fact that the invitation was sent by the NCIC to the office of the Prime Minister, and so whoever would have been sitting in the seat of Prime Minister at the time is who they expected. So the invitation wasn't sent specifically to Stuart Young, but rather to the office of the Prime Minister for whoever is the Prime Minister to attend. So I mentioned that to you all a couple of days ago. I suspected that is what happened. And given the fact that Dr. Rowley was back in the country, it was likely that he would do the honors, and so he did. But that there were calls, of course, from different entities for the NCIC to rescind the invitation for Stuart Young to speak on account of something that they just can't seem to let go. That incident in the Parliament that we know, where certain things were said that some people have become wedded to, right? And I mean, even with the CNC3 would have asked that question of the What Do People Say segment that they have. And there were some persons who felt, that he shouldn't speak and all of that. I mean, but yet still they welcome Mrs. Prasad with open arms. Despite the things that she has said in the past, some of which has been very degrading, despite her comments about ancestor name, Oreo, Rawan, and all of these different things, they had no problems, because you know what, it's okay for her to say what she wants to say. But the minute it's on the other side is a problem. So, but from all indications, notwithstanding the fact that he didn't speak last night, Stuart Young was there, and there is pictorial evidence to show. So if you go on any of his social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, you would see he would have posted some photos where persons who were in attendance came to take pictures with him. So it seems that not everybody is opposed to Stuart Young being at the Nagar, and by extension, not everybody is of the view that Mr. Young should be cast aside like a leper, right? But there are those who thinks that he should. Anyway, that's no. So let me get this here. So let me get this here. Right. So the organization called GOPIO, the Global Organization for People of Indian Origin, had requested that the NCIC withdraw or rescind the invitation. And it has a little bit of a canal there. So let me just play this here. Turn this on. Because there are claims being made that it was Mrs. Prasad Bisesa who gave instructions to rescind the invitation to Mr. Young. So let me just get this thing here. Albeit we're not surprised that there have been denials, but that's okay. That's part of the course. But for those of us who might have missed it, let me just get it here for you. Turn this off. Just now. Right. Nice.
And for that, I'm wondering why is it? James said the decision of the Commissioner of Police and or the promotion to stand up in favor for
ending the event. In any case, had Stuart Young remained as acting Prime Minister, the NCIC was not going to rescind his invitation following pressure from the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin. President Deorup Timal confirmed to CNC3 News that Dr. Rowley will be their feature speaker tomorrow. However, earlier today, he said the invite was to the office of the Prime Minister. Therefore, either Dr. Rowley or Young would have been welcome to perform that duty. But it seems there's internal conflict within GOPIO following its request for the NCIC to uninvite Stuart Young. GOPIO's parent body said it never sanctioned such a letter, which was sent out by the organization's local chapter. GOPIO's Caribbean coordinator Deo Gosain said the statement was surprising, ill-advised, and must be withdrawn. However, the secretary of GOPIO's local body told CNC3 News the letter was non-political and was in defense of a woman of East Indian descent.
For too long, Indians have been attacked in this country. And people are asking, if you listen to Satish program and other programs, what is GOPIO doing? What is GOPIO doing? What is GOPIO doing? Well, I think that enough was enough, and we decided to stand up in favor of our people. More so, we're celebrating Diwali.
Meanwhile, GOPIO's parent body claims Kamla Prasad Bisasa instructed its local chapter to send the letter to the NCIC. However, Nanku vehemently denied any such political interference.
No, I never did that. And for that, I'm wondering why is he saying that? So it appears as though if any controversy exists, it is from within. It is not from outside. Listen, I didn't talk to Kamla.
The opposition leader also categorically denied any involvement in the matter.
Well, tonight we asked if Stuart Young should have been allowed to speak at the close.
Right. So we have the international body, the parent body for the local arm of GOPIO, saying that Prasad Bisasa was the one who gave the instructions to send the letter rescinding, requesting that the invitation be rescinded, right? And of course, the NCIC would have. It's interesting that the NCIC, though, despite what we just heard there, that they indicated that even if Stuart Young was coming, they would not have rescinded because it was sent to the office of the Prime Minister, not specifically to Stuart Young, but they still had to deliberate on it for a period of time, rather than when the request was made public, to come out and say one time, no, we're not doing that. Because in the previous stories that were carried and previous reports, it was said, well, you know, the NCIC management and board is well, that is what was reported, that they were deliberating on the matter. So deliberation tells me there was in fact a consideration to rescind the invitation, right? Rather than just come out for it one time and say, no, that's not an option. We had to deliberate, and maybe they figured, well, Dr. Rowley probably come back in the country before. So, and we didn't request Stuart Young specifically, it was for the Prime Minister. So if we rescind and Dr. Rowley come back, then what are we going to do? So you know what, leave it as it is. So it may not necessarily have been is because of, dismiss that and that's rubbish and light over darkness, and we had a Lego thing. Nah. We needed to deliberate on it first to make a decision. Interestingly, though, the head of the NCIC is an independent senator. So, right. Yeah. Never a dull moment with these people, but I'm not in the least bit surprised. So I'm being told here that the GOPIO Trinidad head Karen Nanku is a UNC operative, and he used to be an older man, and he's following instructions to launch the protest. There's also other reports that there were attempts to organize a faction of the UNC's Women's League to come to the Diwali Nagar and protest with signs when the Prime Minister and Stuart Young came, right? But I don't think that panned out. But we do recall that last year at the Diwali Nagar, there was protest against the leader of the opposition at the Nagar last year, supposedly, seemingly from persons who support the UNC, but who no longer support her leadership. And we may recall many of them were wearing masks, right? Because they didn't want their faces shown, lest they should be victimized. So, but notwithstanding that fact, but anyway, the NCIC was under different leadership last year anyhow. Right, but we are not fooled. So there's a letter in the public domain. Let me see if I get this here, right? The email that was sent from Diogo Sign to, who was it sent to? GOPIO Chairman, GOPIO News Bulletin, October 2024. And it reads, Dear Mr. Karan Nanku and Mr. Rajendra Sahadeo Singh, this is to advise that the news item today in the Trinidad Guardian titled, GOPIO wants young Diwali Nagar invite withdrawn, says NCIC must not endorse a disgraceful behavior to Kamala, is surprising, ill-advised, and does not represent the global organization of people of Indian origins policy, and immediate discussions must be had to withdraw the same. That's the letter that GOPIO sent. GOPIO is a non-religious, non-political global organization that looks forward to working with all political and religious groups in all countries around the world for the improvement of the Indian diaspora. For the records and clarification, I must advise that Mr. Karan Nanku met me on Sunday, October 27th, 2024, at about 9 p.m. at the Diwali Nagar, and advised that the UNC political leader had asked him to write the National Council for Indian Culture and asked them to withdraw Trinidad and Tobago Acting Prime Minister Honorable Stuart Young's invitation because of certain remarks that Mr. Young made. I advised Mr. Nanku that GOPIO should not get involved in party politics in Trinidad and Tobago, and as such, no letter should be sent to the NCIC until further consultation. I am saddened and disappointed to learn that such a letter was sent to NCIC, and furthermore, the contents were made available to the press. We most respectfully ask that the Trinidad and Tobago chapter of GOPIO cease and desist from making further representation of GOPIO on this subject until further consultation. We most respectfully ask that, right, by copy of this letter to Senator Diorup Timal, President NCIC, I am hereby extending GOPIO International's gratitude for allowing GOPIO space at Diwali Nagar 2024 to promote the work that GOPIO International is doing around the world to improve and foster a more harmonious relationship for the Indian diaspora. We want no part in advising on the policy and workings of NCIC and regret any inconvenience. Diwali greetings, signed Dio Gosain, the International Director and Executive Council Member for GOPIO International. Right, so Mr. Gosain, who is as it says here, is the International Director and Executive Council Member for GOPIO International, is saying that on October 27th, at the Diwali Nagar, the head of the local chapter of GOPIO informed him that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa had requested that he write to the NCIC requesting the withdrawal of the invitation. Of course, Prasad Bisesa says that she did no such things. So somebody lying. I know where I would decide that I am inclined to lean on as to who the teller one truths are. But anyway, right. But my issue, how did this become a thing about Indian women? Because you heard the gentleman there just now talking about they had to come out in the defense, and this was an attack on an Indian woman, and he had to come out in the defense of their people and so on. I am certain when Mr. Young said what he said, there was no forethought, or thought of any kind as to Mrs. Prasad Bisesa's ethnicity. So for Mr. Nanku to make this a racial thing, it's pathetic in the least, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because you hear him, so when you listen to this program and Satish program, whoever Satish is, you hear people asking what GOPIO doing, what GOPIO doing. I wonder who are those people? Who are those people? So he listening to whatever radio program and stuff, and hearing UNC supporters calling in and making it about Prasad Bisesa. And so he decided he need to act on behalf of GOPIO, right? We need to come out and stand in defense of Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, an Indian woman. Always blowing the racial dog whistle, but always accusing the PNM of that, right? This has absolutely nothing to do with race. Nothing, because when Stuart Young said he go in and get girls for all earlier, right? All earlier included. There are several women sitting on the opposition bench as well as men. So to make it a thing about East Indian women, you're on folly. But we know what they are about, right? Pushing hate and division. But I thought Diwali is supposed to be light over darkness. We're not about that. We're supposed to be pushing inclusion, and we're supposed to be pushing togetherness. They always like to do, we must come together and come together. But on this, we must stand up. We must separate ourselves from everybody else and make an issue and not out of a non-issue, right? So let's take it down the race road. And there are lots of persons on that party who are more than happy to subscribe to that foolishness. Let's check out the PNM page and so on. But somebody else who also subscribed to that nonsense is the political leader of the PEP, Philip Edward Alexander. You know, sometimes you're just minded to dismiss this fool, this clown, this counterfeit 1%, this wannabe Syrian. But it's difficult to do so sometimes, right? Notwithstanding the fact that you don't really get much traction. But here's what he had to say. Rowley gave Hindus a trick or treat for Diwali. Mouthing words of knowledge over ignorance, he pretends that his second in command did not just violate the sanctity of the parliament and disrespected in the most vile way the nation's symbolic mother, the leader of the opposition, Kamala Prasad Bisesa. When did she so become the nation's symbolic mother? Really? When he, Rowley, named that intractable and diseased individual to act in his absence in the highest practical office in the land, he, Rowley, joined with that cancerous, scum-sucking twit in common cause and became a co-conspirator in his hate. 10 points to his speechwriters for the words he mouthed and who dressed him for the part. But Keith Rowley is nobody's leader. His term as Prime Minister, or his terms rather as Prime Minister, has broken, should be half. You like to boast and beat your chest about English. Anyway, has broken this country in every way a country could be broken, and his presence at the Nagar was not as light, but as a living symbol of the darkness that has engulfed this nation since 2015. The real blessing of this Diwali is the promise that very soon the likes of him and his band of demons will be swept away politically, and hope and prosperity will once again reign in sweet TNT. So says Philip Edward Alexander. Wannabe Syrian, counterfeit 1%er, clown in chief. Something else I wanted to touch on. Where is it? Just now. So, right. So where is it? Okay, there was something I should have saved them, but anyway, right. Yeah, so that's Philip Edward Alexander there, right? And those are his thoughts. If Kamala is his symbolic mother, good for him. I don't subscribe to that at all, and I'm sure many of you all don't either. But anyway, so the Diwali Nagar is over. Dr. Rowley went and he gave his speech. He gave a very good speech, and from all indications, there was nothing untoward. Of course, there might have been a few people who were grumbling. We hear rumors that there were attempts to organize people to come and protest. There were calls for persons to get up and leave the auditorium when Dr. Rowley started to speak. I am not aware that that happened, and as I said, on the contrary, I am seeing several pictures that Stuart Young would have taken with patrons of the Nagar last night, many of whom were of East Indian descent. Right? So if they want to come and say, well, yeah, ANC is the people we taking pictures with is not persons of East Indian descent. So And as somebody rightly asked, so did Diwali Nagar belong to the UNC? So it had nobody there in attendance who support other political parties other than the UNC, such that they have the considered opinion that they have a divine right and they could decide who should and shouldn't come. Rock so with that. But we know a few years ago when Dr. Rowley was opposition leader, Kamala Persad-Bissessar was prime minister, and they were making I can't remember what the issue was at the time. And when Dr. Rowley spoke at the event, in the same way she spoke in her capacity as opposition leader, when he spoke in that capacity, Persad-Bissessar then came afterwards and in her feature address, again pushing hate and division, told the attendees, beware of people coming to fool you, dressing in the traditional way of your ancestors and trying to fool you. Right? This was the prime minister of the country. And I want you all to see the contrast, right, between Dr. Rowley's speech and Persad-Bissessar's speech. Right? Chalk and cheese. Both of them in the capacity of prime minister. Let's compare Dr. Rowley's speech last night and Persad-Bissessar's speech then, when she made that statement, beware of people coming to you dressed in the clothing of your ancestors to fool you. Yeah? And this was coming on the heels of calls by several people, including Jack Warner, for Dr. Rowley to be shunned when he came to speak in his capacity as opposition leader. So it's not now they've been pushing heat around this time. And when you read the comments of some of the supporters who are possibly Hindus and talking this nonsense about, basically pushing that kind of heat, leaves you to wonder, right? Leaves you to wonder. But anyway, another person who has been pushing some heat is Dr. Rudal Munilal. I want to play something for you all, right? For those of you who may not have heard it. In the words of Mr. Yates, you call it, Dr. Munilal. He ain't deserving of that accolade, right? Munilal. So he was speaking at some Diwali function. I don't know if it was hosted in his constituency or whatever it is, but he had some words to say. Listen to this man who wants to be a government minister again, speaking at an event to celebrate or in observation of Diwali, which again is supposed to be the festival of lights, celebration of good over evil, and all of the story and so on, right? I want you to listen to how liberally he uses the word Rawan.
Victimization at the Diwali Nagar last Saturday, in which they cut the feed when the leader of the opposition was about to speak on the claim that they were upgraded. This is the first time people ever upgrade and downgrade at the same time. I want to tell the people at TTT, in a few months, a new government will take office and they will account for that. They will account for that most scandalous act. Now I know why Senator Sukai made that statement. He was referring to the government and TTT. That is darkness over light. So tonight I put the TTT management directors on notice that they will have to answer, not just to me, but to others, for that act of victimization, that act of prejudice, that scandalous and outrageous act that they committed against the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But the voice of Kamala Persad-Bissessar is strong, it is powerful, and it will filter down to every single man, woman, and child, and every elector. And we will not depend on TTT to carry our message, as we do not depend on them tonight to carry our message. So tonight, brothers and sisters, I crave your indulgence to tell you that in the coming months, we will decimate Rawan. We will destroy Rawan. And that evil contingent that follows it, we will destroy them all in a few months. We give you that assurance. We will conquer evil and we will return Trinidad and Tobago to Ayodhya status, to be governed with peace, bliss, happiness, prosperity, opportunity, and security for all members of our society. So thank you for your attention, brothers and sisters, at this great moment.
Now, I am sure Rudal Munilal is fully well aware of the furor and the uproar that there was last time when his political leader made similar reference and said that it was a mistake, right, in the use of the word Rawan. Now, for those of us who are not Hindus, but may be familiar with the story and who Rawan is, right? You know, the offense persons took to that, and I am sure Rudal Munilal was aware of it, but he didn't let that stop him at that event, right? He didn't hold back. So, as he said, in the coming months, we are going to decimate Rawan and the demons who are part of his contingent and so on. Who is he referring to? Even if his leader could have said she make a mistake, or it was a slip of the tongue, or you know, they didn't hear right. You know, just like when she said black man. So, well, they didn't hear right. He made sure you know who he was talking about, right? In reference to, he's going to decimate Rawan in the coming months, and all of the demons who are with him and who are part of his contingent and so on. There can be absolutely no doubt that that is a reference to Dr. Rowley, right? I am certain those people didn't come there for that. Nobody went there expecting to hear Rudal Munilal saying those things about Dr. Rowley and the other ministers. But you heard one guy there say, woo, yeah. In the video, you see him fist pumping and so on. He liked that. He was happy to hear that. Yeah, disrespect the prime minister, disrespect members of government. There are children in the crowd there, sit down listening. Mommy, who are we talking about? Who is Rawan? Who is Rawan? Who they going to decimate? You tell them, Rowley. There's Rowley. And that, of course, would more than likely lead off a conversation about, you know. Again, at a time when you should be promoting unity, right? Forgiveness. You're going on the people and them event to call the prime minister, refer to the prime minister as Rawan. While you didn't mention his name specifically, it's clear who you were talking about, right? And he didn't care that it would be recorded. Now, it's interesting that there was, of course, when Mr. Young said what he said, they were happy to be sharing that video all over the place, and there was highlighted by the media day after day after day. They're talking about that, what Stuart Young said, and up to this day they're still talking about it. Has the media spoken about this? Has this video gone viral? Has it been put out there for public consumption and discussion, and for persons to express their views? For those persons who have an issue with what Stuart Young said off mic, or should have been off mic but was on a hot mic, that was basically throwing talk across the aisle for a few people, you know, banter and so on, as opposed to what we just heard there. Here he said we're not depending on TTT to carry this tonight. I wonder, was this carried on any radio station? Or, but he had no care, right? Those persons who took issue with what Stuart Young was saying and felt that it was disrespectful, and they like, do you all share the view that what Munilal just said was disrespectful, right? Referring to Dr. Rowley as Rawan, and especially those of you of the Hindu faith who understand who and what Rawan was. But that's okay. He could say that. No problem. We applaud that. Yes, yeah. Pump your fist. Yeah. Give him. Because he was disrespectful to our symbolic mother, our Maharani, our queen. He was disrespectful. Give him. Right? But he could say that. And the media is not going to talk about that. We're not going to see that reported on the nightly news, on the daily newspaper. They're not going to ask no question on what people say. Do you think that Dr. Rudal Munilal was disrespectful? Or do you think that what Dr. Munilal said was offensive? Do you think so? No question like that. You feel the morning talk show host on the most influential name in talk radio will discuss that? You feel they won't play that and talk about it? In the same way that they discuss Stuart Young day after day, and all who calling for Stuart Young to go and he should resign and so on. If you going to get that, no, man. That done in the past already. If you'll kick out the PNM will post up that? Of course not. Because they too support it. Is this going to be a topic of discussion? on the various social media platforms and so on? Are you going to be seeing people doing videos on TikTok condemning Monilal? Nah, that's okay. He didn't disrespect nobody. He didn't disrespect the Prime Minister, and he didn't disrespect the office of the Prime Minister. By referring to government ministers as demons, he didn't disrespect. We applaud that. That's okay to say. Never let me hang Stuart Young. We kill Stuart Young. That's it, yeah. Rake him over the coals. Cast him aside. And these are the people who are telling you put them back in office, right? These are the people who are telling you, yeah, give us another chance. But promoting that type of hatred and division reminds me of, and I'm hearing them attacking TTT. So we all know about the situation that happened last week when Prasad Bisesa, or was it earlier on this week, when Prasad Bisesa was speaking at the Nagar, and there was a breakdown in the feed, and so her speech wasn't carried. And they are saying that it was done deliberately. They are claiming that instructions came from the political directorate to not, to cut off transmission during her speech. The Minister of Communication, Simon de Nobrega, has come out and said that is not true, that is not so. And people are making a mountain out of a molehill. They're creating a scenario that does not exist, did not exist, and it was a technical glitch, as the case may be, right? Remember, but anyway, don't need to go there. But he sounded like Trump. We have a list. We put in together a list that when we come back in office, we know who we have to deal with. The elections is at least a year away or so, right? But them done making a list. So he intends to go back. So if the election is called, the latest it could be called, I believe, is towards the end of November, early December next year. And if it is called in that time, he telling us now, he going and put that, take note of that, right? So that if they win next year, he coming back to deal with them. And who have to account? And this one have to account, not just to him. Who the hell are you to account to you? Well, we don't even know what your portfolio will be, if God forbid. Would be, not will be, would be, if God forbid they were to come back into office. But they have to account to him. And not just him, others as well. Who's the others? Who's the others they have to account to? Tell us now. If you're issuing threats to people already, to let them know, hey, brace all yourself. So if it is, you all need to start polishing your resume. Is that what you're saying? Without 1 ounce or shred of evidence that was deliberate. He done issuing threats already to people at TTT to let them know what time it is. You all act together, yes. Don't figure, it could be how many months later you will be called to answer. All right. That's the boss. He's the boss. Very Trumpian, I must say. Speaking of Trump, I saw that the opposition leader decided to pull a Trump at the Diwali Nagar. Yes. So there's a video circulating that her supporters are very proud of, and they're pointing to it and saying that this shows that she is very what is they use? Let me find it. Let me get it. So let me get it. Let me read some of it for you. Yeah, but there's something wrong with you. Where is it? Just no. Right. That's not. Wait. That's not. Where is it? Who shared that? All right. I'm not seeing it here. I can't remember which page it was shared on. But she went to the Diwali Nagar, and there's some food stall called, I think, Popo's food stall or something like that. And she's there wrapping pie and wrapping roti and stuff and sharing out food. I remember Trump last stunt last week went to McDonald's, where they shut down a whole McDonald's so that he could come and pretend to be working there and trying to get a feel of what it is to work in an establishment such as this, packing fries and handing out orders and so on, chatting with people who come up to the drive-through window and the like, looking to show that I'm a man of the people and look, I could come down and yeah. So she pulled a similar stunt. Go into the Diwali Nagar, find a food stall, and she stand up behind in the food stall, and she there pulling wax paper. And yeah, what would you like to have? One slice of pepperoni? No problem. Saying right. So wrap it, she put it on top of the glass case, and the man waiting for a bag, and she gone on talking to somebody on the side, and the man there waiting waiting for the bag, waiting for the bag. Like, what's going on here? Yeah, next. And the man stand up directly in front of her, right? So eventually, probably, I don't know if she figured it out. I can't see. So they cut and then, yeah. So somebody figured out that the man waiting for a bag, or he probably has a bag. So they put so he rests the item on top of the glass case and he pulled back. So I guess somebody realized and they put it in a plastic bag and they put it back on top. She pushed it aside. So next. But when you read the comments, her supporters, oh, so she's so kind and she's so down to earth. And that chalk and cheese, look at her. This is the best we've ever had. That is Prime Minister, the next Prime Minister, and so on. Praising her for pulling that stunt. Because somebody sit down and watching the foreign news and say, that looking like a good idea. All the years, the last 9 years, she has been leader of the opposition. You ever see her do that? You ever see her do that? No. But she get a bright idea from she see what Trump doing, and she decides she go into the Diwali Nagar, you give you a speech, and then you decide, yeah, let me go and find a food establishment and start to hand out things and show people like a rap. Pulling wax paper to fool who? And she fooled quite a few people, eh? You didn't fool me, but she fooled a few people. Yeah. And for that, they're praising her. She's the best thing since sliced bread. Ah, boy. Anyway. So I mentioned to you guys, no, before I go there. So this EMBD matter, I have to touch on that again, right? With Mr. Munilal. So there was a development a couple of days ago, a separate case where the EMBD would have, was sued by Junior Sammy with respect to the EMBD withholding payment for some housing development exercise that was done under the People's Partnership, where the EMBD would have alleged certain untoward actions, fraud possibly, or whatever it is. And so there was a disputed amount. So from what I understand, based on what the Attorney General said yesterday during his press conference, which was sorely needed to clear up the misconception that was put out there by the media, where Junior Sammy would have won the case in the Privy Council. And as such, EMBD is, based on what was reported to us, is that the state had to pay out $80-something million and whatnot. And of course, that Munilal jumped on that to talk about, how much money and it was frivolous and all kind of nonsense. And the fact of the matter is, when you listen to the Attorney General, as he indicated, the $80-something million that they're talking about was not really under dispute, because the EMBD had already paid that money to the attorneys for Junior Sammy long time. There was a separate figure of some $35 million or so, or $37 million or so that was under dispute. And that money had been deposited with the judiciary on an interest-bearing account pending the outcome of the lawsuit, right? So if Junior Sammy win, Junior Sammy get his 30-something million with interest, right? Because if he had gotten his money without a lawsuit, he could come and argue, well, I could have invested the money in this, or I could invest the money in that, and I lose out interest, so I want the state to award interest or whatever. So it was placed in an interest-bearing account, and therefore he won the case, so he will be paid that. But the 80-something million was not under dispute based on what the Attorney General said yesterday. But he also wanted to make it elusively clear that that is two separate cases. So while Munilal would now want to come out and make a issue and say that, try and give the impression that we are likely to see a similar outcome with respect to his matter, or that civil suit of which he is a defendant, that is not so. I would have read for you all text messages, WhatsApp messages that involve Rudal Munilal, messages between himself and the head of the EMBD at the time, man writing to him and telling him, well, he understands that they're looking for a CEO, as the case may be, and they're going to put out RFPs or an advertisement for the position. But he messaging the minister to tell him, well, hey, why would he work? So, yeah, I'm just letting you know I have an interest in the job, and maybe if you could pull a string or two and just organize it for me now, instead of having to go out and all of this set up a canal to do the right thing, the proper thing, which is to get the best people, the shortlist and whatnot. But I would work, right? Okay. And then you had the guy who wanted the house, happy to have been afforded the opportunity to line with Dr. Munilal and others, and to have been informed that he is now part of the team. He's one of the boys. And, Chief, I don't ask so much, but I just, I'm looking for a house, preferably in Oasis Garden, is it? And my wife is 4 months pregnant. And so we went and we took a drive around the place and we identified the units that we want, right? So these are the options based on what we saw. These are the ones that most appeal to us. And so if you could grant us one out of these, we're being very specific. Don't just pick one and give us. We have a choice, right? We have a preference. So if you could make that happen for us now, I'd already asked so much. And then we had another man telling him, well, you're deserving of a house in Valsine. And so he said, no problem, but we will settle for this one for now, right? And then afterwards, later on down the road, if you want to bless me with the one in Valsine, no problem. But we saw this, the wife liked this area, she liked those units, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we will take any one of those, right? And what was Munilal's response? Noted. Not that is not how things are done. That's not how we do allocations. Not are you registered? Do you have a number with the HDC? Have you been registered with the HDC so that your name could be put on the list? None of that. Just noted. And then in the follow-up, we see where he's being told, hey, by whoever, others higher than him. Don't worry, that's in the bag, man. Don't worry. You're good to go. Right? We saw in the text messages allegations of the minister, Munilal, giving instructions to have checks prepared and delivered to him so that he could go and drop it off for the contractors. Unheard of. Unheard of. That a minister doing that. And I asked the question last time, why is a minister, one, giving instructions to collect check, to do up checks, and two, to bring the check, or he will collect the check to take to the contractor? What is his relationship with the contractor, right? And these specific contractors. But he's trying to make a case to tell you and to tell me that this is a political witch hunt and PNM persecution. Nothing more. That there is no substance to the civil suit. None whatsoever. Well, the High Court Justice Aboud, he wasn't of that view. James Aboud, he wasn't of that view. Based on what would have been submitted by the EMBD and his perusal of same, he is of the view that there is a fraud case to answer. The appeal to the appeal court, the 3 judges on the appeal court also shared similar views to Justice Aboud. Based on what is before us, there is a fraud case to be answered. And then it went to the Privy Council, and the 3 judges on the panel and the Privy Council also shared that view. So we're looking at 7 judges who would have looked at the same material and all have come to the same conclusion that Munilal and these contractors have a case to answer, right? And that there's a real possibility that at least some $300 and some odd million may have been misappropriated. That the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago would have been worse off, right? That this is money that could have gone to the benefit of these citizens, and instead, fraud. And what is interesting and of note is that here we are 9 years later going into 10, and we're still hearing about things that we didn't know about before. And it begs the question, what other wrongdoings took place between 2010 to 2015 that we still don't know about? And might be hearing about 5 years from now, or even 10 years from now, as these things become unearthed. So they have a vested interest in coming back into power in 2025, not to, as contrary to what you heard Munilal say just now, they're going to return Trinidad and Tobago to, iodic status. Yes, just like Iodia. Yes, we are going to do that, and we're going to bring back prosperity and good governance, and everything will be great, and Trinidad would be a veritable utopia under us. Really? That's not what it's about. It is about ensuring that what has not yet come to light remains in the darkness. Yeah? What the PNM know about yet? After 9 years, it has not been unearthed. We need to come back into office to ensure that it remains buried. Because man could make a jail. So the article that I would have read to you a few months ago with respect to the $2.2 million that was paid to local politicians so that a CARICOM national who was serving a life sentence in Trinidad and Tobago's prison for drug trafficking, right? Where it tells a tale about the thinking behind Section 34. It tells a tale about what was the real motive in 2012 in celebration of the country's 50th anniversary of independence, where somebody came up with the bright idea to pardon 50 prisoners in honor of the 50th year of independence. And then something happened and caused that with Section 34 and whatnot, and caused that, no, not Section 34, that came after. Whatever it has happened that caused that to fall by the wayside. But that this individual was to have been included in these 50 persons who were supposed to have, notwithstanding the fact that he was serving a life sentence, which tells you that the quantum of drugs that he was with was significant. But 50, who came up with that brilliant idea? Let us pardon 50 prisoners, right? So if we include 1 or 2 CARICOM nationals inside there who pay our money, yeah, nobody ain't going and study that. Obscure. It's easy to hide one man in a group of 50. But then when that didn't pan out, they had to come up with something else. But long story short, the $2.2 million was paid, and there is evidence to show that the individual was pardoned. But has there been a police investigation into that? I just asking. How many months now that story broke? Well, no, the article did say that there was some investigation taking place. But given that that happened over approximately 11, 12 years ago, it's still being investigated. Just like Prison Gate since 2014, still being investigated. How? That is something significant. The article spoke about a CARICOM politician, didn't name the country. CARICOM politician was the sister of the individual who was involved as well, right? So therefore, this spans not just Trinidad government being involved in wrongdoing, misbehavior in public office. The article also told us about some that the original amount that was suggested had to be increased because there were more people involved in the decision to grant the person the pardon. The Mercy Committee had to make the recommendation to the president. And so while the approach was originally made to 2 people, one of these persons told the go-between, well, they could afford to add another $1 million to that because, you know, we have other people involved and other people that need to be paid. Who are these other people? Who are these other people? Not that difficult to find out, you know, because it's easy to know who were the members who constituted the Mercy Committee in 2012, 2013 when that decision was made, right? And find out whether or not any of these other persons had to be convinced with methods other than moral suasion. So whether it was moral suasion and a little kakada on the side too. US dollars, ill-gotten gains, because this individual certainly would have gotten that 2.2 million US from selling drugs. But they want to tell the borders porous and national security in a mess. And we have guns and illegal weapons and drugs coming into the country because the scanners are working at the port and the borders, this and all of that. But here it is that we have members of the government, because based on my research, the Attorney General sits on the Mercy Committee. You have representatives named by the government, right? I think the President as well, who sit on the Mercy Committee. I think the Minister of National Security also sits on the Mercy Committee. So all of these persons in 2012, 2013 would have had a hand in the decision to make a recommendation to pardon this man, and we are hearing $2.2 million was paid so that he could get off. Right? But when did we learn that? When did we hear about that? A few months ago. Right? A few months ago. Almost 9 years after they demitted office. And almost 12 years after it happened, we're now hearing about that. So again, I continue to stress that when they come and tell you want to get back into office because they have the answers and the solutions to all the country's ills, it's not about that. It's about keeping hidden what remains hidden to it, what we still don't know about, keeping those things under wraps, right? And helping other people. So One of the things that they're promising people is that if they get back into office, they're going to repeal the law that, with respect to the cut notes, that made the cut notes no longer legal tender. They're going to reverse that. So all who still have cut notes sitting around the house and stuff, it will now become legal tender again, and you could go to the bank and change it to get the polymer notes and so on, right? It may not come back into circulation, but they will open back up the facility so that those who are in possession could come and do your thing. But when a man could pick up, because remember, if they come back into office, they could get rid of the central bank governor, right? And if you put a man there who is pliable, so that if somebody come in with 10 million in cut notes, 20 million in cut notes, and instructions are given not to report it, just change it. That could happen. It is not beyond the realm of possibility for them to do that. And we know we have a man waiting in the wings who would be more than ready to go back and sit in the seat of central bank governor, because he was so competent the last time that he was there that they would feel more than inclined to let him come back and sit down there again. So the hundreds of the 500, the $500 million that in $100 notes that was not returned. That $500 million, because in the lead up to the 2015 election, we were hearing again the same Jack Warner was telling us about who have safe in the floor in the house and who burying money in pigtail bucket in the backyard and all of these different things, right? We were hearing about that. And all of them who have that money just sit down there and it's of no use. Every time they go and watch it, look at all of that. Millions of dollars, can't do nothing with it. I was talking to an acquaintance of mine quite recently. And he was telling me that he ran into I tell you. You see, anyway, you have to hand it to Dr. Rowley and Dave for being wise politicians. And my acquaintance was telling me on a recent trip abroad, very, very recent, when he was coming back, he was toward the back of the plane. And he saw this former politician from the People's Partnership government sitting at the back of the plane with his family, his wife and children and so on. And he found it to be very strange because he knows this is somebody whose pockets are supposed to be very deep. This is somebody who ate our food in the last administration. And because of his prior involvement, because my acquaintance would have had some affiliation with the UNC at that time. And so he's familiar with this former politician. And he asked him, were you doing it back at the plane? You're supposed to be up front in the first two rows. And the individual said, by the effing money done by. You see that cut noting? Yeah. They jam me with that. Pressure. So, so he has to now fight up at the back of the plane. For the money dry up. I ain't gonna call no names. But I will leave it there. Right? Yes, I'll leave that. So they have a vested in coming back for their own personal benefit, not for your benefit. That's why they come with that choppy talk. Miss us with that BSM, please. Right? Been buying that. But anyway. Ah, boy. So Munidal is contending, that is a witch hunt and all of these things. But we wait see, because I think it's next week. Sometime next week, there is the deadline for them to submit their defenses. I think he was one of the few who has not submitted his defense. He said it was prepared years ago, but he was just waiting on the outcome of the Privy Council to file. So hopefully he will meet the deadline, and then the case can proceed henceforth, right? Before Justice C. Prasad, who has lamented the fact that this is the oldest case on his docket that is yet to be dealt with, and if we had to take anything from that, we could hope that he would be expeditious in treating with that case. However, Justice C. Prasad would have unnecessarily put himself in a position where he will be under the microscope with respect to this matter, because of utterances that he would have made recently in the public domain that could deem to be critical of members of the current administration, and gives that perhaps he may be partial to that other party. I'm not saying that he is, but he, based on his irresponsible utterances, has put himself in that unique position. So if he finds, but as I said, even if he were to find them culpable, there's still the appeal, right? So they could go to the appeal court, and then they could go to the Privy Council and all of that. So it may be some time yet before we see finality with respect to the outcome of this matter. Yeah. And again, as I've said to you all before, if God forbid they were to come back into office before this matter is settled, because it's a civil suit being brought by the state, right? As a client, EMBD being a state enterprise, the government can simply come in and withdraw the matter, right? Just like that. And therefore, Mr. Munilal would not face the light of day with respect to this. So it's really about them fighting for their survival, political and otherwise. Same thing with Donald Trump, who needs to win so that all of those, so he can have the Justice Department withdraw the cases that are yet to be heard, right? He's already spoken about deporting Jack Smith and so on, and he has his list of enemies within who he needs to deal with. And so I'm sure the UNC has a list of things that they need to deal with as well. And priority for Munilal on that list would be to withdraw that matter. And if you withdraw the matter, then the state concedes that it owes these hundreds of millions of dollars to these contractors, and it will be paid. Right? That's how it has to go. It will be paid. So prepare yourself. You know that they have at least a 200 to 300 million. The Attorney General said over 300 million is what they're trying to get back. So that's about some $300 million there that will be paid out to these contractors once the state withdraws the case and concedes. Right? So, yeah. Another reason to put on your list of why you need to make the right choice in 2025. You always complain about these politicians who doing all of this wrongdoing and they don't get, yeah, even if he has to be pauperized, we go take that. If he don't make a jail, right, let him go back to where Warner says he was before. But he couldn't afford to send his wife to school in London, trying to play smart with foolishness. Well, his wife didn't go to school in London, it was in England or some nonsense. So really, playing smart with foolishness. But put that on your list. Just remember, there's still a matter being investigated with respect to the $135,000 that Mr. 4 years later, still no conclusion in that investigation, right? Where the Princestown MP gave $135,000 to the then Prime Minister, and he can't remember what that was for. And every time I raise that, I make the point. If you can't remember why you gave the Prime Minister, why you deposited 2 checks totaling $135,000 to the account of the Prime Minister, then it tells me that those are just 2 of several checks, right? Because if it was a one-time thing, it shouldn't be that hard to figure out. But if you did it on multiple occasions, so this real deposits are making, I can't remember what that particular one was for. These are things that the police should be looking into, and perhaps they are. I just find it takes too long. Far too long. So were the police overwhelmed? Okay. You have a specific unit to deal with these types of crimes. And this is why citizens are frustrated. Because when these stories are published and you read the intricate details, the granular details, and you're asking, but this is a slam dunk thing. Why this man still outside? Why is this man sitting in our parliament? Why is Prasad Bisesa still sitting in our parliament? Why are they not facing a charge for misbehavior in public office? Why? Now, I don't know if it's because that it's under police investigation or supposed to be. That one would think that you could simply, if you want to inquire about the validity of what Prasad Bisesa said, right? Because remember, while Padarat couldn't remember what the money was for, the media contacted her and she was able to give an answer immediately. She said she had gone on some trip abroad, official trip, her official credit card was malfunctioning, and she used her personal credit card to pay for the expenses associated with the trip. And that the office of the Prime Minister or the Finance Department would have issued the check to Padarath so that he could deposit the check into his account and then write a check to her from his personal account, which really and truly makes no sense to me, right? From a public accountant or even a private accounting person, why would you issue a check if the Prime Minister used her personal credit card to pay for expenses associated with an official trip? And when she comes back and she presents her credit card statement showing the expenses, then the Office of the Prime Minister, with allocations, the $170 million that Mr. Imbu told us about, the $170 million that Dr. Roddy told us about was spent at the Office of the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's Residence and Diplomatic Center. That these allocations that would have been made in the 1 year 40-something million and another year 30-something million and all these millions that were added to the Office of the Prime Minister, right? Otherwise, the accounting officer in the Office of the Prime Minister, which I believe is the permanent secretary. Why didn't you make the check? Why wasn't the money sent directly to the Prime Minister's account? Why did you have to make out a check to Padarat? For Padarat to deposit the check into his personal account and then write a personal check, deposit it in the Prime Minister's account? And you didn't think that would raise red flags? I would like for anybody to make that make sense for me. Make that make sense for me. And has that been the practice? But it should be easy. Somebody could have just filed a Freedom of Information request and inquire whether or not that happened. Did the Office of the Prime Minister issue checks in the amount of $135,000 to Barry Padarat as reimbursement for expenses incurred by the then Prime Minister? And I made the point again before. If I go abroad with my credit card and I have an issue with it, I pick up the phone, I call the hotline number, and I let them know. Or if you have online banking, you have the private messaging, you could send a message and let them know, and they could address the problem. Right? This is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. This is not ordinary Joe. So if the Prime Minister's official credit card that is issued by the state bank, the government-owned bank, First Citizens Bank, then pick up the phone, make a call, send an email, contact the permanent secretary, let them tell to pay for, this to pay for, that to pay for, and the Prime Minister's credit. The permanent secretary could pick up the phone and call the Minister of Finance, who was the immediate former CEO of First Citizens Bank, and he could make a call instantly. The Prime Minister's credit card is malfunctioning. Fix it immediately. No questions, because he's corporation, so he in charge. Hello, Prime Minister credit card. Oliver said, what going on there? Sorry, sir. Check on that. Quick. Quick is the word. They go on the system, see what the problem is, and fix it. They couldn't do that, but she had to pull out her personal credit card. So her personal credit card has a limit of at least $135,000. Wow, okay. Her personal card, not the government card, personal card, could spend at least $135,000. Lucky her. A sweet limit, she probably have a black card. I just asking. Let me see, boy. Well, you're brutal here, the chat. Wazid said, well, if they paid off, investigation would take forever. Indeed. 29 Super C is saying, what really going on with that? Right? And all of the that Paddy and Imami get when they opened this business in 2011. You see, they are the de facto defenders of proper procurement. They want to tell you they bring procurement legislation in 2013, right? Because they're so concerned about corruption in the system. But how did that procurement legislation work out for the Beetham wastewater treatment plant? When a man who owned a company that has zero experience, not even 1 day experience in building wastewater treatment plant, was able to secure a contract that was over $400 million higher than what the second place bidder bid. The second place bidder having 58 years of international experience in building wastewater treatment plant all over the world. But they lost a company with 0 years experience and that charged $400 million more. But we about proper procurement. We brought the legislation in 2013, 2014, 2015. Why didn't you have it proclaimed? What was the holdup? I'll tell you what, it went to a joint select committee. Really, how long it stayed there? You all were so anxious and giving us the impression that this government could have done it just like that. Well, if that's the case, why didn't you all do that? Because you saw the need for proper procurement legislation. Why you didn't do it? Because it was the mama guy and fool the people. Yeah, well, look, we bring the legislation. So you can't say that we weren't interested in proper procurement. You bring it, you debate it, and you leave it to language to fool the people. Because that legislation, had it been in place, even as they say, watered down, their version, which was supposed to be a little more stringent, then we would have been able to understand better, and perhaps the procurement regulator would have been able to red flag all of those contracts that Barry Padarath and his mother would have gotten for a variety of different things, some cleaning schools and school maintenance and school repair, and providing those bins for safety napkins, those bins for the sanitary napkins and so on. A job that Rent to Kill has been doing for many years, has years of experience in that. They have the tools to do the job, but yet still, all of these contracts that Mr. Padarath and his mommy would have gotten with no experience, they don't have the equipment to do these things, but they were able to get the contracts to do it at much higher prices than what were quoted by or what the experienced companies bid. And there were several instances based on that article where that happened, where this man's salary alone was well above what it is he was supposed to be receiving. The tote Kamla handbag, you receiving hefty salary that's well beyond what you were supposed to be receiving, and nobody asked no question about it. When and how was that decision taken? When and how was that decision taken? Because to the best of my knowledge, Dr. Rowley doesn't have a bag toter. Right? So is that an official position that is afforded the Prime Minister? I never see nobody with Dr. Rowley into, say, they carrying Dr. Rowley briefcase. When he jump out the back of the SUV in Parliament, his briefcase in hand, and he walking inside. Beside so when she step out of PM1, yeah, Barry coming out next, jumping out perhaps the SUV behind with her handbag. So who created that position? And since this was a position for the Prime Minister, did she recuse herself? Was there any recusal? But we know recusal wasn't the thing, because they weren't big on recusals then. When the decision was made with respect to the fire truck, 10 million at first, and then it went down to 6 million. And we have a company, again, in the article that says there was a car salvage company that said they could do that same work for 25,000. 25,000. Because the truck could not be saved. They could have dismantled it and bring out the truck. 25,000. Instead, we pay over $6 million for that. Today, the truck park up rusting in the Shogunas fire station. Never to be used again. 25,000 versus 6 point. All of these things, if they had the procurement regulator, because look what we saw happen the other day, Niblek issued I think, or was it Niblek or Nitco or somebody who issued some contract for some bridge and whatnot, and then the procurement regulator would have pulled it back and the like. We would have been able to, all these things would have been red flagged, right? So Mr. Man couldn't have been able to get those contracts, but he get it. We're still asking questions, but all these things 9 years later, we found out when? In 2020, 5 years after they demitted office, and 4 years now since Mark Bassant brought that to the fore. Where is Mark Bassant? He did a 2-part story on Foster Cummins, right? The first part, and then he did the follow-up. Give us a 4 nights, or was it 5 nights? Showing us all the man business going on in the man house. Inside the man house to show us video footage, and all of these different things. Yeah, you get details of the man deposit slip and credit union statements and all of that. Intricate. Where was the follow-up on Padarath? 4 years later. Any follow-up? Anything, Mark? Anything? For those of us who are curious and we want to know now, we just looking because we find it taking a little long. That up to now, the police, well, as far as we know, when they contacted Padarath Mami, she decided she not answering no question. Talk to my lawyer. And then she jumped on a plane to go and take care of she grandchild. I understand it have a second child in the picture now. I don't know where that come out, but anyway, congratulations to him. as Krokro say, breastfed is best fed. Where's the mother? Where's the mother of these children? But anyway, questions to be answered. So when he could mount a platform and refer to Dr. Rowley as Rawan and the ministers of government as demons, and they're going to decimate Rawan and his demons. Okay. So I told you all about an article published by one Martin Daly, which to me screams of hypocrisy. Let me get it here. It's appeared in the newspapers. Where are you, Martin? Where you hiding? Where you hiding? Let me get this right. It's called An Impairment of Democracy, October 19, 2024 in the Daily Express. The People's National Movement Tuesday announced last week that the People's National Movement wishes to advise that its 51st annual convention as well as the internal election originally scheduled for Sunday, November 17, 2024 has been cancelled. The PNM is currently the party in government, having been elected for five-year terms in 2015 and 2020. The PNM's cancellation notice is disturbing. It is a decision that goes beyond party business. If the decision stands, it will become another impairment to our practice of democracy. To our country's considerable credit, we have survived as a reasonably democratic country because, first and foremost, our general elections have been held when constitutionally due and when we have had peaceful changes of democratically elected governments. The PNM must receive considerable credit for following the Constitution in that respect. Secondly, to our credit as an independent democratic country, we have been tested but have survived two periods of intense internal turmoil in 1970 and 1990 respectively, when on both occasions the constitutionally established government might have been overthrown. Thirdly, to our credit, there has been no significant or lasting overt curtailment of media freedom and freedom of expression, despite ongoing and regular attempts of intimidation. On the debit side, we have not done well with the practice of accountability, and we focus political disagreement on personality and on an opponent's origins and not on policy. Moreover, when tested, many of our institutions, designed to be a check on the abuse of power, have responded weakly as their personnel have allowed themselves to be manipulated for a partisan purpose. When such abuses of power occur, a few robust commentators generally point them out. But there are those within the establishment and others who are equally diligently seeking to eat our food, frequently in gluttonous proportions, who condone the abuses or silently acquiesce. Fellow columnist Noble Philip Boldy stated that there is a clique of parasitic, non-productive elites who barter support for political parties in exchange for control of the national income. Pandey, 1994. He cited Pandey presumably in recognition of the late former Prime Minister's reference to the parasitic oligarchy to describe those who control the money and power in our vulnerable island nation. And in light of the above, our democratic scorecard should be marked functioning but flawed. However, we must be careful that our marking is not downgraded to democracy practice but disrupted. A disruption of our democracy is not on a distant horizon given our disastrous and unchecked level of criminality. Meanwhile, I am concerned that the PNM's cancellation notice represents an impairment of our democracy of a stealthy kind. The top leadership of the PNM obviously fears that a convention and internal elections at this time would permit party members to express dissatisfaction with some of the party's grievous acts and omissions while in government. Let me repeat that. The top leadership of the PNM obviously fears that a convention and internal election at this time would permit party members to express dissatisfaction with some of the party's grievous acts and omissions while in government, and to speak against the handpicking of candidates and successors to the current leadership. What grievous acts, Mr. Daly? What omissions? Share that with us now, because and what is the time period that you're alluding to with these grievous acts and omissions? Because the last time I checked, the PNM had an internal election less than 2 years ago, December of 2022. December of 2024 will make it 2 years. So is it that you are implying that these grievous acts and omissions took place when in the last 2 years? Because the same membership that you're talking about, who you're saying would the elections would permit party members to express dissatisfaction with some of the party's grievous acts. How come they didn't express dissatisfaction with those grievous acts in 2022? It's the same membership, unless the membership changed and I'm not aware. So when did these grievous acts take place? So there were no grievous acts between 2015, according to you, to 2022. So these grievous acts would have taken place, what, in the last year and 10 months? I just asking, Mr. Daly. What has the government done in the last 2 years that has been so egregious that you feel that the membership would come out and express dissatisfaction and so on? Rubbish. But I continue. Cancellation of an opportunity to influence different choices and to disrupt plans to promote handpicked favorites of the parasitic oligarchy behind the scenes into high positions is anti-democratic. So he's implying that Stuart Young is a member of the parasitic oligarchy. How so? How so, Mr. Daly? What has Stuart Young done to demonstrate that he is part of any parasitic oligarchy? I would love, you see, when they make these broad statements without any qualifying evidence, and they put this out there, but these are supposed to be men and women of letters, intellectuals, because remember, Mr. Daly is a big, I believe, senior counsel. Is there now a significant split between the social PNM and the grassroots PNM within the ministerial and executive levels of the party over preferences for political foster children? Pun intended, Mr. Daly? Historically, we have changed the incumbent party in government when driven by a vote them out sentiment. Dissatisfaction with the incumbent government festers long, and then bam, extreme tolerance reaches breaking point. We may be at that point now. Ghastly ministerial failures need to fail their own membership before the party can have credibility as a choice for the wider citizenry. Ghastly ministerial failures. Say who they are now. Please, say who they are and tell us why you think they are ghastly failures and how you could have done a better job. The problem for the wider public is that the opposition UNC has split and is unlikely to offer any attractive choices of candidates. The suppression of the PNM membership's influence over its candidates and leadership successors deprives us of the possibility that the PNM membership may give us some slim hope of refreshed choices when the coming general election is held. Will only more stale or recycled choices be placed on the election ballot papers? Martin Daly. Mr. Daly, if you want to comment on PNM business and you want to know PNM business, join the party. It's in the hard. As I keep telling you, go down to Balize House or find the nearest party group. You could get a nomination form, fill it out, get somebody to sign it for you, a member who is in good standing financially and otherwise, and let them submit it on your behalf for consideration by the Central Ex and the General Council, and so that you can become a member. And you pay your dues. I think it's $5 or something, so it starts, and then the annual is $120 or $120 or something like that. Right? Can't remember how much I paid last time. But you want to come and pontificate and put your pennies and your 2 cents in PNM business and attacking ministers and talking about ghastly failures and the like. In what way? Who is the failure? All of a sudden, you all have an interest in the leadership of the PNM. Why you all want all these years? Why weren't you asking about succession planning? But all of a sudden, everybody wants to put in their 2 pence in PNM business. Who have an issue with Stuart Young because of his ethnicity? Because the PNM is supposed to be a black man party and you could only have a black man as the leader of the PNM. Where in the PNM's constitution that is written, I would love to know so I could see it for myself. Right? So when persons of other ethnicities come to apply for membership, you need to put a clause. Please note that owing to your ethnicity, you cannot be a future political leader. So we're letting you know up front, disclaimer, right? So persons of this ethnicity need not apply. temper your ambition. The furthest you could reach is deputy political leader, but hey, we draw the line there. Yeah. Chairman leader, forget that. You are ostracized. You cannot serve in that capacity. Is that written anywhere? The PNL, maybe put it up on the wall in Bali's house. So when people walk through the door to submit their form, they could read it one time and know, hey, that's as far as you could go. So think on it long and hard before you submit this form. And so while people like Mr. Daly, who may come with these articles and leaves one to wonder what is their true motive. True motive. So you have people on the outside of the PNM now who started to line up, right? Picking side and coming to use the various platforms to try and curry favor or kuchu and bacchanal. Because there are some people who would read Mr. Daly's article and well, Martin Daly is a bright man, he's an intelligent man, he's an accomplished attorney. So if he says so, it had to be so. But again, I'm asking the question. I'm going to say again, when such abuses of power occur, a few robust commentators, but there are those within the establishment and others who are equally diligently seeking to eat up food, frequently in gluttonous proportions, who condone the abuses or silently acquiesce. What abuses? What abuses? It was because an attorney at law and an accomplished attorney at law, Mr. Daly would know better than to be making wild and spurious allegations like that of abuse. What abuses? Who was abused? It is Dr. Rowley, the same, how you want to reference here. The same Dr. Rowley who introduced one man, one vote before it was the delegate system, which would have been easier to manipulate, especially when it comes to the choice, even you have to get a political leader acting. If it is the current leader who to step down. The delegate system, which people existed for years, but it had its flaws. And therefore, Dr. Rowley said, you know what, let me get rid of that. One man, one vote. Once you're a member of the party, you're in good standing, even though in the last election, even if your finances not up to date, you didn't pay your dues in a while, you will still allow you because you're a party on record. You're a party member on record. So they made allowances for those people because we know things tough and not everybody could afford to pay 3 and 4 and 5 years back dues. But they're still doing things on the side. The person might be very involved in the party group. When the party have anything, they're up front, they're offering themselves in any way that they could. But they probably just don't have the little caca to pay. They pay for a couple of years, things might have been hard. Party will come and rake you over the coals and say, well, they ain't pay your money, so nothing for you, no vote. That is a demonstration of that is democracy in action. They could have said, hey, if your dues are paid, we don't care that you're harder. We don't care that if COVID affected you, now you can't vote. They say, no, come, everybody come. Whether you pay or you don't pay, everybody come. Dr. Rowley has done that. But yet still you want to come and make these claims about who can do and what and parasitic oligarchy. It upsets me every time I keep hearing and these people who like to talk about the PNM in the back pocket are the 1%, is the 1%. And I keep asking them, how? How has the 1% benefited significantly from this administration? I could tell you how they haven't benefited. Because this is a government that seems intent and hell-bent on reducing the amount of rent that the state pays into the pockets and the coffers, because the majority of buildings that the state rents in and around the Port of Spain area, where there's a concentration of government offices and ministry headquarters, the owners of these buildings belong to the Syrian Lebanese community. Since this, almost practically day one, since this administration has come in, first thing they decided to do was what Prasad Bisesa didn't do. For the 5 years, 3 months, 14 days that she was there, and she had, according to her, the highest energy revenues in the country's history when the oil price was $100+ per barrel. Government campus sat down there for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, right? While they continued to pay rent to the so-called 1%, while they continued to renew leases with the same 1%. You had a whole buildings, Ajax Street, Rich Street, all these buildings in Vincent Street, all these buildings that were there that are today occupied by several state entities, by several ministries, and so the hundreds of millions of dollars that was being paid in rent for all of these entities between 2010 to 2015 is now being saved, so that the government can now spend that money on other things to benefit the citizens, rather than spending it to rent buildings for citizens to come into. Right? The Ministry of Education has its own tower now. The Ministry of Finance, BIR, has its own tower, 23 floors or so. I think at the upper floors, the top 2 floors are occupied by the Ministry of Public Administration. Because I recall having had a meeting a couple of years ago there with the then with the Minister of Public Administration, but she was acting in another capacity, Alison West, right? But you have those buildings there. So that building that is now being vandalized at the corner of Queen Street and Edward Street, where the BIR head office used to be. If you drive up Edward Street, you will see complaints, people, migrants and whoever going inside and vandalizing to take whatever it is. Whoever they were paying rent to for years for that building. I always mention the blue glass building at the bottom of Abercrombie and Street and Independence Square that used to house for years customs. That blue glass building. No rent. St. Nicholas collect a cent of rent for that building in about 7 to 8 years. You know how much he was collecting between 2010 to 2015? When the building that is now being used on Ajax Street that was completed by Patrick Manning as part of government campus there, languishing. For the last 7 to 8 years, it has been occupied by customs. So no money going into St. Nicholas' pocket for that building. For years, driving up Abercrombie Street, you see there was a sign for rent. It's for rent. And if you drive around Port of Spain, you will see have a number of other buildings like that. They complain about how much money Faris gets in and Faris family gets in. The government is now in the process of building its own accommodations for the ministry, the head office of the Ministry of Social Development, right, and Family Services. Currently, that building, the head office on St. Vincent Street, that belongs to Zaman Enterprises, which is Faris Al-Rawi's in-laws. So the government is making preparations to move out of that building. So that will, once that happens, once the building is completed on Tragreed Road, and they move out, that is just another building that is going to be there empty, because you have a lot of real estate around Port of Spain now that is empty because the government has moved out. And the thinking behind the construction of some of these buildings was to rent it to the state. But that will be money out of their pockets, adding to the list of buildings that are just there. Now, to the downside, it is impacting the value of buildings in and around that particular area because of the increase in available real estate. So, but to the government's credit, if you're telling me that they're in the back pocket of the 1%, but they're doing things like that, the EBC renting or leasing that building, Scott House on Project Street. The government is in the process of constructing a new EBC headquarters behind the Ministry of Agriculture, not Agriculture, sorry, used to be Agriculture, behind the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in St. Clair. They're going to build a new headquarters for NLCB up on Pembroke Street, next to that Atlantic building there. In the car park next to, they're going to build NLCB head office there. So that building that NLCB is renting on Duke Street, whoever is the owner of that building has to prepare themselves soon enough. They will not be collecting that rent anymore. But we don't ever talk about that. But the one person is clown Philip Alexander, who always like to talk that stupidness about the contract mafia. Which contract mafia? You have any so-called 1%, any Syrian Lebanese community getting contracts for roads? You have any of them paving roads? The people who make the most amount of money from the government in this country is the road paving contractors. So tell me, other than renting the buildings, how else does the so-called 1% benefit from the state? So when the government jamming it to them, right? Just completed the head office for the Ministry of Health. They're no longer renting that building on Park Street, where for years the Ministry of Health was occupying a few floors for almost $8 to $10 million a year. That stopped. So there's less money going into the pockets of whoever owns that building. I think that's under Massey. And we keep seeing things like that taking place. The waterfront, right? 66 new courtrooms. They created the Waterfront Judicial Center. 66 new courtrooms. Instead of having to go and rent or whatever it is, the buildings are there. Use it. They're using it and taking money out of the pockets and the bank accounts of the so-called 1%. But they like to push that chopped talk. No word, government nonsense. I made the point, Dr. Rowley never spend taxpayers' money to hold no big bram in the diplomatic center for members of the Syrian Lebanese community. Kamala Prasad Sessa did that. All of that was included in the $170 million that was spent under the office of the Prime Minister and Prime Minister's residence and diplomatic center between 2010 to 2015. But they're making up for $50 million entertainment and only going to spend. No matter how much times they get the explanation for what that was for, they're still on that. But $170 million spent in 5 years, right? As opposed to 102 in 9 years, almost 10 years. But we're gonna focus on $50 million for waiters, for FET, for rum and FET. And Prasad Sessa happy to talk that nonsense. But where is the discussion on her side about the $6-point-some-odd million for helicopter rides? Where is the discussion for that? They have no issue with that. No, that is all right. And talking about she was the best we ever had. And Mr. Warner talking nonsense about she performed and she delivered. Delivered what? What did she deliver? Other than corruption, other than a dysfunctional cabinet, what else did she deliver? One hospital, Keith Rowley give you 5. No, if you want to go down that road. Because when Mr. Warner made that comment in his interview the other morning on Power 102, and he talked about she delivered roads and bridges and so on, the PNM delivered that too. The PNM gave us the QREP interchange. When Prasad Sessa came in 2010, the Arangwes interchange and the Grand Bazaar interchange were well under construction. Those are PNM projects that they simply completed. They didn't even start it. It was started under the PNM and they completed it, but wanted to take credit. The Diego Martin interchange, PNM did that. Which interchange did they make? What did they do? She delivered roads and bridges and so on. How? The 106 schools that was rubbished by Anthony Garcia in May of 2019 in the parliament after Tim Gopi Singh stand up and talk that mile of garbage. And it was rubbished. And not one of them could have get up afterwards to challenge what Anthony Garcia said, because the man walked with the receipts and he got it from the ministry. The same ministry that Tim Gopi Singh was in charge of, and he read out all the schools that they claim they built. That Mr. Garcia was able to point out all of these things started under the Manning administration, and all these things could do in the corner, Bolena. Where we finish it, it finished under us. Who started it? So you want to take credit for things that you didn't start? So you finished it, you came and put on the finishing touches, you came and you made it in progress. The funding for it was already in place, the construction was underway, you did nothing other than to go and cut the ribbon and put up the plaque and take credit for it, and then come and talk nonsense about all your bill at 106 schools, and your supporters happy to clap like sucker seals. Yes, you could fool them with that. You didn't fool us with that. But she delivered. How did she deliver? Keith Rowley bought 3 brand new ferries. What did she do with the 2 that she inherited from Mr. Manning? Run them to the ground. Refused to send them, according to the Mute report. Refused to send them for dry docking, for maintenance, and kept requesting extension after extension after extension till when this administration came in 2015. The Maritime Authority that is responsible for granting the extension said, no more extensions. That's it. Hard luck. Both those vessels have to go for dry dock, for servicing. So fight up how all you could. See what vessels all you could get to rent, to lease. Pressure. Sea bridge breakdown. And up to this day, they're still talking about the PNM mash up the sea bridge and the PNM mash up the sea bridge. But wouldn't focus on what they met. Wouldn't talk about what they met and what led to what they met. But put the blame there. But she delivered. Highest energy revenues in the country's history. Didn't see it fit to purchase a new ferry. Not even one. But gone to China and see some boat and say, I want one like that. Dr. Oli had to tell us the other day, the amount of problems with the boat, they just park up there and sell it for scrap. Right? The US was selling, you'll recall when the US was selling one of their decommissioned aircraft carriers, the big vessels that they have out in the sea that the planes take off of. And this one was how much donkey years old, and they decided to decommission it. And Bassan Barrett told us the government was considering making an offer of it. To do what? We have planes to take off from that? No, we're going to make an offer. We want it. We want it. To bring it and pack it up down Stoble's Bay. But she delivered. Delivered what? 95,000 laptops with no means test? So give everybody one. Give everybody. Whether it is the parents could afford or not, give it. And beat in your chest. But no internet in school to cover that. It was never incorporated into the curriculum. So the students go into school with the laptop, but no practical use in the classroom. Right? No practical use. So it didn't adjust the curriculum or anything like that to say, well, okay, they could use it. So other than if they were doing IT, or some computer classes in school, when they go home, those who live in rural communities, no internet, some of them have no electricity at home. How they charging the laptop? But they could use it to do homework. How? Go across by neighbor? How? None of those things were put in place. This administration gave us 78,000 laptops, and not just to students, but to teachers as well. So you're giving out laptops to the students, but the teacher don't have none. So even if it was incorporated into the curriculum, the teacher had to sit down, open your laptops, students. Well, I don't have none, so can't really instruct you all from it because the government didn't see it fit to give the teachers any. But they give all your laptop. Laptop and loss as long as the red house fire, but you give out contract to fix. Set of cheap laptops. Most of the time, what was it used for? To play games and to look at pornography. Right? And then how many of these students ended up being victims or possible victims, potential victims of muggings? Because who know that they had these laptops in their backpack and looking to take it from them, relieve them of it. But she delivered. She delivered. Fired over 20-something ministers, but you delivered. Delivered what? You pave some roads? Okay. You take $7 billion in cash from the treasury, unheard of, to complete a highway that still wasn't complete, that this administration is still completing. The latest leg was opened a couple weeks ago and still ongoing. $7 billion going from the treasury. So there will be no accountability because himself to himself is himself spending himself's money, right? So you ain't taking no loan, no financing, no low interest financing from the IADB or any of these other international lending agencies that would have required you to be responsible or that you would have to give account for the money. But they don't talk that. Martin Daly write an article on that? Maybe he did. I didn't see it. But you have the time to write a whole article, waste your Sunday space to come and talk, put your 2 pence in PNM business and how the PNM is running its affairs. If you want to have the right to do that, join the party. Otherwise, hush your mouth. PNM business is not your business. 70-something people decide, yes, we agree. But coming back to Prasad Bisesa and the same nonsense Philip Alexander talking about she was the best prime minister ever. Same dotish mantra. She delivered. Delivered what? Corruption. Galore. Right? That is why Munilal is now the subject of a civil suit. Corruption. They want to talk about the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. How they were so prudent in its management and they never withdraw any money. They couldn't withdraw money because the law prevented them from doing so. But that didn't stop them from amending the law to provide indemnity to the board members of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. So if they invested badly and the fund lost millions, the directors who made that decision could walk away. But they were quick when they come in, they want to sue from aside. Previous boards, they just sue in left, right, and center. But let us put things in place to indemnify our board members so that if we lose and the PNM come in and they can't sue the people that we put to sit on these boards. And they enshrined it in the law to be able to do that. But meanwhile, Munilal saying this EMBD suit is political persecution, but it wasn't political persecution to go after Malcolm Jones. That wasn't political persecution when you all withheld critical information from the 2 attorneys whose legal opinion you sought on whether or not it would make sense to sue Malcolm Jones. That wasn't political persecution. Nah. When he went after the board of E-Tech, that wasn't political persecution either. But they're coming after you, but there is WhatsApp proof that something untoward took place and it's political persecution. So you're setting the stage already. Study a defense. I would love to read that document to see what he is saying. He probably claimed that anyway. Wouldn't be surprised if he did that. Right? But he's just up for that now. This dotishness about she performed and she delivered. Really? Delivered what? Where the wastewater treatment plant? Was that delivered? Where Mamu? Where Krishna Lala? Where is he? Where has he been for the last 9 years? If what he did was above board and could stand up to the most robust of scrutiny, why isn't he in Trinidad and Tobago? Why did he leave his palatial home wherever it is he was living in Trinidad and Tobago? Why did he leave his business in Trinidad and Tobago to hop on a plane to go to Panama? If he has nothing to hide, no cocoa in the sun, and nothing to answer for, if everything was above board, why did he run to Panama? Where they have no extradition treaty? Why did he do that? And why is he still there or possibly wherever else he is? Since everything that he did was right and there was no wrongdoing there, then he should have stayed home and faced the music. Didn't do that. First plane he could have bought out, he gone. But they want to tell you she delivered. And that government was never involved in any wrongdoing, no wrong stand-up. Everything was above board. Right? Pillars of virtue. All claims and allegations of wrongdoing between 2010 to 2015 was PNM mischief and PNM propaganda. That's why nobody here make a jail. Really? But as I keep telling the supporters, how come Calder Heart not behind bars? And they tell us Calder Heart stole billions. You all spend money to put up big billboards with Mr. Manning and Calder Heart next to a pile of money telling me Calder Heart thief and Calder Heart thief every Monday morning, Calder Heart thief. You all came into office. The police have a question Calder Heart. When they asked the then Attorney General, so what's going on with Calder Heart? He said, well, we know where Mr. Hart is. When we're ready for him, we know where to find him. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, they weren't ready to find him. But between 2009 to 2010 general election, Calder Heart was priority number 1. Right? Calder Heart was a wanted man. Yet the only person who tried to get justice, in so far as Calder Heart is concerned, was a man by the name of Ishmael Samad, who went and take a sledgehammer and went up to the man's house in Cascade, say he beaten down the man gate. He come to make a citizen's arrest. And he's the only person who ended up being arrested. No attempt whatsoever. If it is you couldn't make a criminal case against Calder Heart, why didn't do the same thing until they sue Malcolm Jones? But when they tell us Calder Heart thief billions, where is the civil suit to get back the billions from Calder Heart that he stole? Where is it? You all ever tried to sue him? But you went after the board of E-Tech, Ken Julian and Wendy Fitzwilliam and them for $5 million US, but Calder Heart, you told us, stole billions. Vernon Dilema and Timothy Hamel-Smith spent the money to go all the way to Malaysia to get documentary evidence to prove that Calder Heart brother-in-law was a director on Sunway, the company that was getting all the contracts to build all the things. But at least today we could see the waterfront. So Calder Heart did that. We could look at the Prime Minister's residence and diplomatic center. Calder Heart did that. We could look at Napa and Sapa. Calder Heart did that. We could look at the Chancery Lane complex that they turned into a teaching hospital. Calder Heart did that. All of these things we could look at. Government campus and so on. We could look at all these things. Calder Heart did that. So at least we could see what he did. We are benefiting from all of these things today. But when they say he thief billions and billions, that you weren't interested in going after those billions. No. But as I always say, under them less is more. So 5 million US is more than billions that he thief. So where is he today? Enjoying the billions? You weren't interested in pursuing those billions. But she delivered. She delivered. Prime Minister said when he became Prime Minister, piles and piles of files, the documents that needed signatures for some 2 years plus. She didn't have time for that. She was too busy cutting ribbon and throwing parties and flying in helicopter to do the work that she was elected to do. He, Dr. Rowley, had to now come and sign things that he don't know nothing about to get the pile down. Matters of national interest, but she was too busy for that because according to Gary Griffith, 5-day weekends. So the 2 days that she come out from the cave, the Pink Palace cave, was to come to Parliament on occasion and maybe to cut ribbon and to give her speech and go back in the Bat Cave. But she delivered. She was the best prime minister ever. Going to Jamaica or wherever it is to talk about Trinidad and Tobago is not an ATM. Imagine our regional brothers and sisters going through hurricane. And where it's customary for us to lend assistance, you go and tell them, yeah, what now? We could get a little thing, we had to get something from it. So if we want help, we could send some material and stuff, but we had to use our workmen. Yeah, that's the condition. Well, everybody else just come in and help, and no conditions attached. But Trinidad and Tobago has conditions attached, okay? You want our aid? No problem, but one hand can clap. They're talking about regional diversity. But she delivered. Yes, that's how she delivered. Right? Before she became prime minister, she going on helping every time the government tried to enforce the law with respect to squatting. People looking to squat all over the place and take state land that has been earmarked for development by the state. She up front, yes, I will represent. She gone in the courthouse and she win case. When people see that, well, look, Kamala represented the squatters and them and she get through. All of a sudden, people decide, well, hey, we go in and squat. And if any the PNM come to do anything, we'll call Kamala and she will represent us. And as soon as she win the election, all of a sudden, all over the place, people running to put up, to grab state land, to put up shack, to say that, yeah, we live in here because this is a squatter-friendly prime minister. And when she realized the kind of worms that she opened, the Pandora's box that she opened, because everybody figure, well, land grabbing is a thing. And if it is, anybody have a problem with it, Kamala will help us. And now she's prime minister, so she endorses that. What did she do? She will not tolerate lawlessness. And all of a sudden, she flipped the switch. So all who went and put up the little shack because they tell themselves the prime minister is now pro-squatter. You come and push it down. Right? Push it down. Pineapple Smith, Cashew Gardens, all these places with Robocop and so on. Robocop telling us the contribution that he made in terms of helping them to get win seats, especially in Shogunas East, where I think he was from. I remember that, but she delivered. And then when the media interviewed her, she said, well, right, we will not condone lawlessness. But you went to court and fight for the lawlessness and let them know. We started with Cashew Gardens, we started with Pineapple Smith, and next we going down La Brea. And she followed through on that promise. Within weeks, they went down to La Brea to do the same thing. Poor old man. They pushed down the man's house with him in it and had to take him out bleeding through his ears and through his nose. But she cared for the poor, and she so cared for the poor and cared for the poor. Now she come back talking nonsense about land for the landless. Put them back in office, land for the landless. Well, if they find she taking too long to deliver the land, they will go and take it for themselves. You say land for the landless. I am landless, I have no land. And they have government land, well, I'm going and take it because they're taking too long. So by the time you reach, we're already inside. Yeah, so just hand us the certificate of comfort. We taken in front. That is the lawlessness that they promoted, but she delivered. But if you'll ever hear Philip Alexander talk about that? No, but every day putting a post and talking nonsense about she's the deliverer. And she has his full backing because she's against a cashless society. But we understand why she and he against a cashless society. Because a cashless society makes it difficult for you to get the bag of money and spend the bag of money. Right? But these are the people. He who still have questions to answer about the Jericho project. He who wanted to have a program called Equal Time on CNMG. $92,000 a month so he could interview every evening between 6 and 7 disgraced ministers, the likes of Anil Roberts and Glenn Ramadas Singh, Mr. Sexual favors for HGC House. Right? And his first guest was supposed to be Anil Roberts, who he was going to get to admit that it was he in room 201 after he told us, it wasn't me, that was PNM voodoo and PNM Photoshop, and his leader come and tell us, I asked the minister for a report and I'm satisfied that that was PNM propaganda. It was not, that wasn't the man in the video. But then you had the same Philip Alexander coming to tell you he wanted to leaked email to have this program and he will sanitize these disgraced ministers, and he will interview Anna Roberts first to get him to say, yes, it really was me in the video. But that's why I was on my personal time, and you know, nothing wrong with just smoking a little something from time to time. And I apologize if it would have embarrassed the Prime Minister and the government and so on. No wonder why he fall in with that gang. Just as corrupt as they are. Brotherhood of wrongdoers. But want to tell you, put them back in office. We'll never speak on all these things that are happening here. No? Munilal, if you go on the Facebook page, everything that happened since with the articles on Junior Sammy and the Privy Council, yeah, he posted up that. But you know what he didn't post up? The one that speaks about him and the loss, his loss, and the loss of the contractors who went to the same Privy Council. The same Privy Council that they hung up and love up last year when the Privy Council said the government has to call the local election. Oh, every day the Privy Council and the Privy Council and the Privy Council. That's why we had to keep the Privy Council. And you know, we had to depend on 3 white men or 4 white men in England to give us justice, and the Privy Council and the Privy Council. Well, the same Privy Council say Munilal have a case to answer. Well, they don't love up the Privy Council anymore. Where's that article? Why you don't post it? No talk on that. Nah. You ain't gonna see kick out the PNM post up that. You think they're talking about that on the East Indian formatted stations, where all they do whole day and whole night is to bash the government? Now we ain't gonna talk about that. But I bet you they're gonna talk about the government had to pay 83 million and blah blah. They're gonna talk about that, but you ain't gonna talk about anyway. Folks, 7701763. I'll just say Jack got back to finish the UNC now. Jack is back, didn't work last year, but they go work this year? Or you work next year? All right. Okay. Yes, no. Let me get this here. Hold one sec there, Jen. Just... So, I'm going to get this here. So. Jenny. Hello?
Hi, Dominic.
Hey, Jen.
Hi, good afternoon to you and all those who are tuning to Facts Sister One Things.
Greetings.
And Shubh Diwali to the Hindu community as they celebrate Diwali today. I have noticed, I was born here. This is the culture of my birth. And I think I have, in fact, I know I have the right, like anybody else, to defend my stand and have an opinion. Without people telling me I must apologize for my opinion. And I've seen too long in this country, this is me, Jennifer Frederick, as an independent citizen, that every time some persons of Indian descent say things that are degrading and disrespectful to persons of African descent in this country, and you respond to them in kind, that you and you will always have to apologize, because then they receive to being a victim and start to tell us about how they have been discriminated against and how badly we have treated them. And I want to ask them, those who think like that, and Hindus in particular, today as they celebrate Diwali, it is about light over darkness. I want you all to think carefully about the way you all behave, some of you in this country. Because as far as I could see it, I feel that I am more disrespected and discriminated as a person of African descent in this country. Because when I look at things like Caroni Limited was owned by Tate and Light, or whatever the company was called, the colonials, and I want to stop making money. Dr. Eric Williams bought Caroni Limited to save over 5,000 jobs. And I can tell you, it didn't have a big percentage of people of African descent working there. And they continue working there. The same Dr. Rowley, they want to be calling Rawan and all kind of things. He, as Minister of agriculture would have written off billions of dollars in colony debt. And colony continue not to be making money. We heard about the pilfering that was happening down there. And subsequently, the company was closed down. And those workers get the biggest retrenchment package in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. They also get land. And then when Dr. Equivalence had opened point leases, they became instant millionaires because the value of their properties went up. I don't see that happening to the African community. But we never sit down and quarrel and get on about it because we understood what was happening there. When you look at the contractors, Sammy and all of them, they have been making money since under the times of Dr. Eric Williams and the PNM. Nobody infects them because they have the equipment and they put it forward, they build and they get it. But the construction, those contractors, is what they're paying any sense. But when I see the one African contractor that I'm aware of, because I know much more, Mr. Warner from Tobago, and how they're fighting down this man from getting a contract, from getting a license, he gets a provisional license to this quarry. They fight down the man with that police gun home by him, they search this and all that. He's an African contractor. One of the few big ones we know. And they're fighting him down tooth and nail. So when they start to talk about them being victimized in this country, I don't know what some of them talking about. Because as soon as we say anything, we have to apologize. The PNM had the sports, they don't get nothing with Cuba or Shogun or other places. Dr. Rowley was no part in the different party groups who had the performance to do. Some party groups do a performance with a skit, with a sari, and who I'm rapping the sari. Dr. Rowley had to come out and apologize because we were made to know that the sari is holy. Mm-hmm. And Kamla Prasad, Chester, and Khadija, I mean, they went and marched with a whole group of people along by the Prime Minister's office along there in Sinclair. And Dr. Rowley had to come out and apologize because of the marathon, I can't pronounce the thing proper, the holy place and had to come out and apologize for that. Who apologized to Dr. Rowley for standing up in Parliament and saying his father is a rapist and his father raped him and he born a rapist and because he grew up angry as a rapist, he in turn rape a little girl, gang rape a little girl. Who apologized to Dr. Rowley for that? But the Prime Minister Stewart went off mic saying that she goes in the toilet and gammy. And they hold on to that is disrespect she and all that. Again, I will keep saying, I never know the word damn is a disrespect. So if you take an adjective to describe a word, it's the person you describe it. But he has to pay for that all now. The conversation is that. And then they come in to tell me about discrimination against them and disrespect against Indian people in this country. Why does GOPIO and I'm really talking about, right? And we have to sit down and take this and hear conversation. When them go low, we must go high. Me living in America, and I love Michelle Obama, but me living there. When them go low, once I have the fact, I go in low too. Me ain't taking no disrespect in the country of my birth. It gets over there now, Dominica. Again, I talk as an independent person. And a citizen of this country. You can't tell me every time you respond to disrespect from some people in their defense, they turn it around and become the victim and say we must apologize. I said enough is enough. This is me talking. Enough is enough. The PNM has never been an African party. Yes, the supporters have been mainly African people. It has never been an African party. Dr. Williams made sure he said there's no more India, no more China, no more Syria, no more Africa. It's a nation he was building, and all are welcome. Who choose not to come is who didn't want to come because they formed the PDP with Badis and them and all them kind of things. Then chose not to be a part of that. And on top of that, history show you. Just a rural Muniland that they're talking to the devotees. They used to go to the temples. It is Plano and tell the illiterate devotees at the time that the PNM hate them. Dr. Rowley, Eric Williams hate them. And then they use the word recalcitrant minority and put it as something racial. That Dr. Eric Williams said. And they fill the devotees' hell And some of these little Indians said when they go in the communities, it is reclaimer. And I just hate. And they keep doing it over and over. That is what Dr. Rural Munilal, I would just call him doctor for this. Dr. Rural Munilal went in a function for Diwali and talking about Wawan and all that. That is not a place for that, but they're some doing it, you know why? Because they just get away with doing it. Because as they respond, we have to apologize. I'm not apologizing for nothing, especially if it's written in black and white. I am not going to insult nobody or form no opinion and insult nobody. What I read and from is what I want to put forward. So you see, once I see them black and white, I say it again. I, Jennifer Frederick, as a private citizen who born in Trinidad and Tobago, I equal like any other race in this country. And I stand and shoulder to shoulder with any other race in this country to build this country. I'm not bowing my head to nobody, and I want nobody bow their head to me, because all are equal. But I will not apologize for speaking the truth. Think that I could research and so receive, so I'm not going to do it. So you see Dr. Rural Munilal and them, I call him a racist this morning. Kama Pasabita, I call him a racist. And all who support and like what the UNC do, I am saying they corrupt, they like kleptocracy, they love bacchanal mayhem and confusion, they like things easy. And I'm not apologizing for saying that. Dominic, you have a blessed day. Again to the Hindu community, because this is not all Indians I talk about. I could never say all Indians. But there are some, and we see them. They're mostly the UNC and who support them. Again, I say, all are equal in this country. Nobody more equal than nobody. And I come here fast. They came after. They get a lot of benefits in this country. And still moving as if this country they done something. My ancestors didn't come here and work for no money, you know. My ancestors come and work for free and build Europe, you know. We get nothing face, and then when they free we now, after getting nothing face and after beating we, tell Curtin you have to come on and talk about the whip. That's how disrespectful it is. They make laws in this country where they could beat African women, but they make laws where they can't beat Indian women under indentureship. They make laws in this country when they came in 1845 that they must be fed properly for a whole year because they wasn't strong enough to do the work. We didn't get all them things, and all they want to still throw around to this day to move as if all is victims or the wicked who thinking so well because they get land or they get money to buy land or they get privileges that my ancestors wasn't privy to, and we never jealous all this. We continue and we come out of that and we work hard. But I'm saying again, I'm not taking no disrespect from nobody who thinks like I'm a service than them. And I'm not apologizing for nobody who thinks like I'm a service than them. You all have a blessed day.
Thank you, Jen. Right. Always passionate. Mr. Yates. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Am I on?
You are on.
Thank you. Well, I am going to use the word recalcitrant minority, and I'll put it into context for when it was used 60 or 70 odd years ago by Dr. Williams, and how quite applicable it is today. And before I even say so, the less said about Martin Bailey, for me, the better. Because he is the epitome of hypocrisy. People, I'm not saying he has done this, you know, but people like him over the years have always attacked and criticized CNN for encouraging slothfulness and worthlessness in black people in this country. Special works, Jude, CPEP, URP, PNM government encouraging worthlessness. And these are the people, because they have cited those examples, they have been talking in an undisguised way. It has been racial discrimination. And these hypocrites are coming today to berate Dr. Rowley for the decision taken to postpone the thing. It is hypocrisy. And it is so much hypocrisy that the very person, if it is that Dr. Rowley wants to, he's looking towards one particular person to replace him when he chooses to go. And that person happens to be Stuart Young. People like Daly, I'm not saying Daly himself, but people like Daly They love the idea of Stuart Young replacing Dr. Rowley. Let's cut it to the chase, man, and not be damn hypocrites. They love, if somebody like Stuart Young becomes the Prime Minister, they love him. They love it. They would love it more than the caviar they eat every Sunday. They love it. So let's just get rid of this damn stupidness and hypocrisy for a change. Now, recalcitrant minority. Let me just tell you, as it was then, in the 50s, they were against federation, the federation of the entire Caribbean. The Indians in Trinidad, the Indians in Guyana were opposed to the federal movement as proposed by the leaders of the Caribbean at that time. Norman Manley, Grantley Adams, Williams, and others. They were against it. You know why? You know why? The typical paranoia that guides the resistance by the Indians in Trinidad to the CCJ it obtained 70 years ago. You know what that is? They did not want to federate with the Northern Caribbean, come down the chain of islands, down to Trinidad and Guyana. You know why? They felt encircled. They didn't want to federate with places like Jamaica up north, come down the chain, Antigua, Barbados, Grenada, St. Vincent, and so on. You know why? They felt that they would be federating with a majority of African people in the Caribbean. And that is what it is. So it was rooted in insecurity, paranoia, and racial prejudice. They did not want that aspect of the federation. They did not want that idea of federation. They wanted it, but they wanted to federate Trinidad, Guyana, and Suriname, where they feel Indians would be the majority. That is what it is. So Eric Williams was damn right to call them a recalcitrant minority. And why some people say that he wasn't talking race, it is they who he was referring to. And it happened also when it came to 62 and independence. Capildio was dead set against it. The same paranoia argument, they felt that they would be encircled. And it is Ellis Clark at that same Marlborough House who prevailed upon Capildio. He took him to a room and prevailed upon him to support independence for Trinidad and Tobago. He did it. He bent to the whims of and the persuasions of Ellis Clark. But as he came back here, he started dividing the population again, the Indians against the Africans. You see? Fast forward to now, right now, 20 years ago in 2004, when Grenada was flattened by very bad weather, hurricane or storm, everything came down, houses, light poles, everything, no water, everything. The place was completely flattened. And they needed help from their Caribbean brothers who were better off. Patrick Manning, as the then Prime Minister, 2004, he extended a helping hand. And he sent people from water, technicians, he sent people from tea and tech, all in the attempt to restore a sense of normalcy to Grenada. You know what the Indians started writing, the UNC Indians? You know the mantra in the newspaper? All the letter writers. You know what they say? You know what it was? Fix me first. Fix me first. I don't have water. They have pothole outside my door, right in my road. We poor, we have no money, prices in the grocery high. Fix me first. Tout mon, as they say. That was the mantra. And it used to come from UNC operatives too. Why are you helping Grenada? See about Trinidadians first. Look at the rural areas where our people, they like to talk about geographic discrimination.
Yes.
That was a mantra too. Why you're fixing up Grenada and you're ignoring the immediate day-to-day needs of infrastructure and food prices for our people in Mayaro and Pinal and Oropoch and Tripoli and Faizabad. They were dead set against helping Grenada. Fix me first. Minister. Look at the dangerous nature of these characters who remain the recalcitrant minority. Do you know some years ago, Guyana was overrun with, we know Guyana always had a lot of rain, bad weather. And it reached crisis point some years ago when Patrick Manning was the Prime Minister. And the whole country was overrun with water. Manning used the resources of this country. He sent experts from the different state enterprises. Same intention to bring back a sense of order to life in Guyana. You know these hypocrites in Trinidad. Manning sent water pumps, suction pumps to absorb the water and to bring life back to a sense of normalcy. You know these same wretches who attacked Manning for helping Grenada. You know, they didn't say one damn word about helping Guyana. Not one damn word. Not one damn word. And we know why. Guyana is their brothers. Many Indians over there. So it was okay for Manning to help Guyana, but it was damn wrong for him to help Grenada. Recalcitrant minority. The same damn people from the 50s. Right now, I'm closing now, but right now as I speak, you would know that a couple of years ago, Dominica had very, very bad weather. You know, those countries don't have too much mountains. It's flat. Bananas and so on. They're flat. And you, Dr. Rowley, asked the people of Trinidad, if you are in a position at all, if you have a relative living in Dominica, or you are prepared to help one or two families to bring their children here, if you have room in your house, if you can extend a helping hand to help with the children and open, he would call on his education minister to facilitate a little bit of schooling for the Dominican children, these beleaguered people. Do you know these wretches in the UNC wrote letters to the editor attacking Dr. Rowley for opening the arms of charity to our brothers and sisters in Dominica? The same beat. It's the same beat. You mustn't help the black people in the Caribbean, but it's okay to help Guyana. And that is recalcitrant minority for you. The same thing Eric Williams spoke about 70 years ago. It's the same damn thing Keith Rowley Manning has had to face. Keith Rowley had to face the same kind of antipathy towards black people in the Caribbean. It obtains today, as we speak, right now. And of recent vintage, Trinidad is not an ATM machine. Jamaica afflicted. Trinidad is not an ATM machine. From this woman, this character, the Dr. Rowley had to go to Jamaica and talk to Holness and try to calm down government ministers and calm down the Jamaica business community. Because in the Caribbean, they are our biggest trading partners. And they were prepared to boycott Trinidad goods. And Dr. Rowley had to go and restore balance to that situation. And that is the story of the UNC. And those characters ever get in power in this country. They are divisive, they are backward, they are paranoid, they are racist. I say so without fear of contradiction. Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, sir. I fully agree. Divisive to the hilt. Right? I would say I will wait to see if that comment Munilal made referring to Dr. Rowley as Rawan and his ministers as demons, if it will get the same type of attention that Stuart Young's comments got. We'll wait to see. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Because we know it's hypocrisy dealing with. That's now, Eric. Come on 1 sec. Let me just let me get this here. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Romain, good afternoon to you, to the callers and listeners of another segment of Facts and Stubborn Things on this Diwali holiday. Let me take this opportunity to wish all my Hindu brothers and sisters a blessed Diwali celebration and may the eternal light overcome the darkness of their mind and their hearts and their racist soul. Right. With that being said and done, now, you want to play that clip earlier, but well, I am not no doctor because he's not a doctor to me, right? Yeah, but I play that clip with Munilal threatening media house in this country, right? Because they did not play, it had a glitch when the opposition leader was giving a speech in Parliament. On the Parliament, the Nagar site, right? Who could recall when Dr. Raleigh was giving a speech at, I think it was President's, Prime Minister's residence when the lights went off? The same woman who the championing that it was inhumane, it was biased, right? The same woman who was laughing and had a fun day when Dr. Raleigh was giving his speech and the lights went out, right? It's all well and good then, right? I wonder why they didn't tell us why it had a glitch. Maybe, I don't know. I just asking questions in this, Dominic. This is my opinion. I just asking questions. My question to Munilal, was your leader under the influence that night? Maybe her speech was slurred. That's why the NCIC had an issue with it. I just asking questions. I am not asking questions, right? Well, but that being said and done, Dominic Visai said it all. These people in this country, especially the UNC opposition, they are behaving as if they are more superior than the other ethnic groups in this country. They alone must be on top, and everybody else must be second class or third class citizens in this country, right? And people have to understand it's not now this going on. This has been going on since the baddest Saga and Mirage days coming straight down. So it's nothing new how they behave every Diwali season, because they tend to behave as if the Diwali Nagar site is a UNC site. It's not a site for people to go and visit. It's a UNC site. People of UNC origins and party before country policies, that is for them to go, right? It had one called Alan Karim, who was championing the cause for people to get up and walk out the site when Dr. Raleigh was talking. Yeah, I said this is what the people in these kind of people we have to put up with on a day-to-day basis in this country, right? And I thought that Diwali would have been a time of reflection and introspect, but it clearly shows that they are hell-bent on causing a lot of problems in society. You understand? So, with that being said and done, right? I'd love to listening, and let me take this opportunity again to wish all of them Hindu brothers and sisters a blessed day today. Doctor.
Thank you, sir. Let's get this hand. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic.
Oh, Lord. Leave it there.
What's going on?
All is well. Let me hear your bacchanal today.
Look at boy.
Let me hear your bacchanal.
Sis, good afternoon. So, Dominic, what's going on with Hines and the Women League? I hear something in the news. Why I hear talk about that?
Would you like me to talk about
I go out for that.
Okay.
I had to tell you this one. Back in the days, I taken a little Mako on 95.5. It was around the time for their stand-up tent. Gypsy was doing an interview. He eventually told the person how, you know, I had to go and support my partner. And he called a name, Dominic. He called a name. Then he told the person, because you know, he on a board, Dominic, because he on a board. I also heard that person telling people how he on a certain committee, Dominic. So he's on a board and he's on a committee.
Who is this? Call name.
You notice I ain't call no name.
Call name.
Dominic, you really want to call name?
Call the name.
You called his name recently, you know.
Call the name.
Nah, next time I will call the name for you.
Who is the person? Darian Marcel?
Recently.
Who is the
You
person?
said he was raising funds for the former MP.
Darian Marcel?
There you go.
Darian is on the board of NCC and has been for quite some time. Yes. Darian is a commissioner of the NCC.
I didn't call nobody name, eh? So Dominic, I will leave it here.
All right. I don't know what's the implication that you're making, but I would tell you, if you listen to Darian last couple of days, you would see Darian is nobody's lucky, right? And he ain't singing for his supper either. Okay, so and you can just go on Facebook, pull up I-95 if you didn't listen to Darian for the last couple of days and take a listen. Yeah, as you say, he ain't taking no bribe. Anyway, we'll leave that there. Brian.
Dominic,
yes,
good
sir.
afternoon to you.
Greetings.
Good afternoon to your listeners and callers. And Diwali greetings to our Hindu community. I hope that they do enjoy their day. Dominic, I'll tell you something. It is amazing how far this mic comment has gone. You know, and it's a crying shame that, as Jenny rightly said, when things are said about us, the African people, that we're supposed to take it and lie down side it. And nobody of stature really comes to our defense. But it was said, a simple thing like when Camille Robertson Regis, the Honorable Minister of Housing, Paul Kamla Prasad said I have full government name, that was an issue. And up to today, I still shudder to think. And I'm wondering, why was that an issue? But when Kamla Prasad Bissessa retweeted that about our names, being of a slave master name, I ain't seen nobody except very few, those of us who call in, talk about it. I didn't see it being stretched out for no length of time. I didn't hear much about it on no radio station. So it's okay to denigrate a race of people in their own country, the same country you want to live in, same country. But nothing must be said about you, not even if it is of might, not even if it's not directly said in your face. Even the issue where they had the skit with Dr. Rowley, the walk to the man's official residence, for him to apologize, but he wasn't even aware of what was going on. And they knew that. Kamla Prasad Bissessa knew. But they made a hillbilly out of it. And all because EMBD and this government has taken taking up a state issue with respect to money, stolen, fraud, cartel-like operation, as has been described by Rudal Munilal. If all of a sudden everybody have a problem with it, he has a big problem with it, to call allegedly called Dr. Rowley a Rawan, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, revered and recognized up and down this hemisphere, from the hallowed halls of the White House, straight down into Central and South America, and around the world, as a matter of fact, in the boardrooms of some very serious organizations like Shell Global, PPTT, Woodside in Australia. That you could surround in your Diwali celebration because you are so aggrieved that a matter has been taken up, that you have to answer questions. And the best that could come out of you is to threaten the workers and the people of PTT and to call the Prime Minister Warren. And what are we saying about that? Should I take it? What are the papers or the news or certain call-in programs or certain radio stations or television stations, as you rightly asked, they wouldn't talk anything about that? I wait to see this week. I wait to see, and I will be listening. Because as Kenny has rightly said, we can't continue like this. Look at the big set of old talk with respect to the NCIC and GOPIO, with respect to the Diwali Nagar, and a simple thing that has happened all throughout the years, where the person in Whitehall who is acting Prime Minister or Prime Minister comes to make a speech on whether he should or should not. I am asking this question. What does the Mahasabha have to say about that? What about the 5 dissidents? Why did they not comment on what Kamla Prasad and GOPIO they had to say? Danish of Bali, how come I haven't heard a word from him? But he was up present and talking just the other day about Kamla Prasad. How come he has nothing to say today? How come? They're very, very quiet. Not a word from them. Kamla Prasad calling for Short Young, whoever it is coming to make an address at the Diwali Nagar to not be allowed to do so. This is how far she would carry these things, she and Munilal. Because when it's talking about getting together, coming together, so it's a waste of time. It's not going to happen. They don't care about us. They care about themselves and what they could get away with. The plethora of things that we know that's still before the courts and nothing has happened with respect to them. You have a chief whip inside of there, making laws for you and I to follow. All of these things being said about us and being done to us. But nobody on the government side before the court. Nobody has questions to answer before the court. But people criticize everything that is said by this government. And whatever happens in the internals of the People's National Movement Party, everybody have a comment to make. Many of them not being members. And those who perhaps are still members, making these negative comments and putting it out in the public space. Only giving them further to criticize on issues that don't even really and truly exist. Martin Daly, of all people, never liked Dr. Rowley and this government. Never did, and never will. I don't care what anybody says. Because when you look on the other side, I'm talking about certain atrocious activities on this government side that he will not, I'm certain, will never be explicit about. Never. about Dr. Rowley and this government as if something has been leaving it to people to speculate and there's an aha moment to come. But if there's an aha moment to come, Martin Daly, let us know what it is. Step them from your high pedestal where you're hiding out in England. Come and tell us that is really and truly where you still are. Come and tell us. But don't sit down there and draw, and because they get a space in our papers to make right speculation on matters that you have no clue, you don't know one thing about. Because you dislike Dr. Rowley and the PNM. Or perhaps you want to see somebody else there. Why? What is your rationale for it? What is your reason? Somebody will put something in your head, let us know. Let us know. But they won't because they can't. Because the stability of the PNM is what is beating them all. I will continue to beat them. Because they want us to shy away and forget about the A and the B team turning on the next side of the parliament. That they are separated and segregated. And that they have been disenfranchised. And they are no longer on the UNC chat. They don't talk about these things. And they don't even clue what's going on. They're not in the meetings anymore. And they will remain there until the next election. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about those who try to hold on to the security of Canada Service Center because they by themselves are a total waste of time. Philip Edward Alexander went for an election with 28 seats, and all 28 had to give up the $5,000 because they all lost so badly. They gave up a cent. They all lost the deposit. Nobody will talk about that. So yes, he brings nothing to the table. So by him criticizing this government and Dr. Rowley, it's as hollow as his head. Because he brings absolutely nothing to the table. So he has to hold on to your tail because he wants to seem relevant and significant, but he's not. But he brings absolutely nothing. And Kamala Performative knows that. But you will hold on to him simply because he's want to be used. And eventually he'll be spotted like a chewed up plum seed after the next election. So he brings absolutely nothing to the table. So all of those who dislike the PNM and African people and continue to do so, regardless of what people think, we all know where they are at. We all know where their headspace is. It will not change. And what will certainly not change is what is going to happen on the 6th of next month. When Motilal has to deliver his defense, he and his cartel friends will have to deliver their defense. And we will not forget. Because they want the public to forget that we will let the public know exactly what is going on. So if he believes he will get away with it, regardless of who is the judge, he won't. You know why? Because the same Privy Council that is there for them is there for us. If it says only for them alone, well, you better think again. Because this could go all the way back to the Privy Council, and I believe it's one way or the other. And they would eventually have the finality of the question to answer. And I hope they are made to pay what they have stolen from we the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Plus interest. And all those other matters that are before the court that can't seem to get a start or a finish. Yes, Dr. Rowley said the wheels of justice do turn, but for me they turn it damn slow. Because many people would have forgotten, even President Gates, as you mentioned earlier, would have forgotten these things. They don't talk about it anymore. And that is why we have to keep reminding people that, hey, these things are still on the table for us. And it must not be forgotten what they did to us. People must remember that they were about to give out food cards worth $30,000 every single day, which was found by and Tamir was mentioned in the parliament. You understand? been having food cards in their hand to do what the hell they want and just turning it over, and money would have been disappearing very, very quietly. You would never have known about it if it wasn't found. Never have known. And these are some of the issues, some of these things that are still coming out. And what else is there? That's why they want election today. They want election now, call election now. Because they want things to continue to be hidden away and things to go away. Just like Donald Trump. Amazing, eh? The similarities. Truly, truly amazing. But the people of Trinidad and Tobago know better. Don't be fooled. If you feel like it, they don't. The way you come in the store, the way you buy the clothes, the way you buy the food, everything, yes, no problem with that. They want your money. But I'm telling you today, they don't like you. Imagine if one of Ramsaran went and wrote a letter to the IMF because he can't get US currency. The Ramsaran juices owner wrote a letter to the IMF. Imagine that. A letter to the IMF reporting who? Because you can't get US dollars? Really? And the Minister of Finance had to come out and explain exactly what the exempt bank is about. And that was giving money to people, was giving money to those who are selling to us from abroad and who have already been vetted. Had to come out and explain it to us. But this is the problem that we're going to have once these people are given space in our papers, in our papers, and headlines, and in our primetime news hour. They will be given space and time. But people will refuse to go on and explain to us exactly what is the rationale and the reasons behind it. That is why the Attorney General and the Minister of Finance have to come out every so often to explain to us and the people, hey, listen, what they're trying to portray to you all is in fact not so. And that is what we have to do as well, Dominic. All of us who call in and speak on these issues and these matters, do not be fooled by them. And we will give you the honest truth as much as best as we can. Dominic, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, I could probably do another 10 minutes or so. So 7701763. Let's see if we could get a couple more in. Keep it brief, folks. Because I plan to come off at 2, but I think I'll run for another 10 or so minutes. So Brenda Smart says Kamala is a hypocrite. The preaching light over darkness for Diwali, or there rather, but after Diwali is only lie after lie after lie. Leo says PNM and Rowley have this country stink, and then he went Nagar to spew his BS. Really? Leo, that's your thought? You know, as I wonder, people like Leo and them who will attack Dr. Rowley. I wonder if Leo ever spoke about David Lee and $1 million bail for fraud, misbehavior in public office. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Leave it something else. Leave it to talk about Darian. Darian question, leave it lie to Darian questioning you lie, you wouldn't lie, you realize that happened. He covered your program and tried to twist it, and he went to the other place and tried to twist it. He get embarrassed, he get quiet, he think he can't just call him station. No. But my thing is that Muriel made some statements, and this thing we talk about was before the court, sorry. But when I listened to what he's saying EMBD-E. EMBD-E. Right? I usually probably using technical terms or everything, but if that matter is before the court and you pronouncing on it, guilt and innocence, because what he's saying not directly, but is alluding to is that the government is behind a witch out to go after him. Basically, that way trying to get that way the misogynist supporters for them to think it. Because I don't know how he could jump from the Junior Sammy case against EMBD to align that with a specific team of contractors colluding with employees of EMBD and over the oversight of the minister to defraud the state. Because basically that was the state, that was the thing as well. So when EMBD did the audit, because there are inside man in EMBD facilitating the whole process, and he had help, what would have happened is that he would have hold back some monies owed to Junior Sammy. But what they did, and the lawyer representing Junior Sammy, who had he made a statement, he had a press conference on it. He skillfully did not mention that EMBD, the money that was owed to Junior Sammy, EMBD had put it in an account because EMBD was challenging Junior Sammy for the monies. It went to court, Junior Sammy took them to court. It reached as far as the Privy Council. The Privy Council ruled that EMBD deserved the money, so the money is there. So it's just a matter of just right there, the money is there. With the interest of the community, they give the hand over to Mr. Junior Sam. Why didn't the lawyer mention that? And I want to ask, why the lawyer keep talking about wasting money when you're going after these fellas? Because I can tell you, the lawyer to that, after 27 years, we get back $134 million US from fellas from the airport, and Ms. Kamala Pasabi Sessa was saying that was a witch hunt to go after UNC people and the contractors and all that thing. And she is the one who gave us Section 34 and all these other things. And I'll also add that when you're dealing with white-collar criminals, they have money. They have money to go to the Privy Council. So if you had to go after them, the government had to put all that money to go after them straight to the Privy Council because them won't lie down and take no nonsense over them. They won't deal with that like, say, okay, well, I guilty and I go think I will. They ain't go do like what Mr. Maraz is saying, wasting money to go to the Privy Council. Look what happened to Dr. Murilal. Dr. Murilal fighting the case straight to the Privy Council. Dr. Murilal asking anybody where he get a money to go to Privy Council. Or anybody asking Dr. Murilal that question, Dr. Murilal asking the state about wasting money and he want to get a count of how much money was spent on lawyers. I want to know how much money Dr. Murilal spent on lawyers to fight his case. Because after 7 years and you hide them just to give a simple witness statement declaring, you can't provide that up to now. You had to get an order from the Privy Council to tell you had to submit your thing by a certain time. You understand what I'm talking about? Dr. Murilal and them guys and them have no moral authority to talk about anything. And I want to know, and especially the judge that he's before, because I've seen him operate against Julia Davy on several other talk show hosts. When you talk about them, right? You talk about things. He's talking about the case and he's part of the thing. He has to face the judge. And he's talking about the matters that before the court. And I hear nobody talking about pronouncing on it. So I want to know if there's something technical in it. So because I'm a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. I was born here, parents and them born here. And I usually call and give my views. And after I see how the way that specific judge operates, it sort of scares me, and I'll be very careful of what I say, because a judge to go after you, I mean, that is what you call serious dictatorship. I mean, and the judge is making a lot of serious statement on politics. He's crossing his boundaries and making things like as if he's a politician. There's a line between his office and the politician's office. And he has to be very mindful and very careful of his utterances. And like he don't care, because this is not the first time I hear him make serious political statements, because he can be seen as biased. And because a large percentage of the population already looks at him in that way. I've listened to his utterances against his boss. I've listened to his boss responded to him, and his boss and all pointed out at him. So he knows, but he continues to politicize his office. And that is very scary. And when I listen to Dr. Morilal making his utterances, and he's very quiet, it makes me, it open my eye again, because he has Dr. Morilal to go and stand before him, and I can expect that he will be, but let me get myself in trouble on the program. You get the message what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So we have to look at that. We have to seriously look at that, because you are telling me that Dr. Morilal and has the three courts in Trinidad and Tobago, the High Court and the Appeal Court and the Normal Court. They say, look, listen, be looking at this thing, and wherever, there's something that you have to answer. It reached to the PB Council, and the PB Council tell you that. And then when all they tell me about Malcolm Jones, because all they went after Malcolm Jones, and nothing was wrong with me and Malcolm Jones, but when Malcolm Jones submitted his witness statement, it proved that there was a no contest case with that. They're supposed to drop the case, but you all kept it there hanging while the lawyer is being paid. And they retain the lawyer in the Malcolm Jones case, and them files and them just get paid. And then once you submit that, you will realize there's a no contest to drop the case. And it was the thing only for them. Malcolm Jones was able to put through his witness statement. Why would we have to put through his witness statement? Why we have to wait so long for somebody we elected a public figure, a man who was in charge of billions of taxpayers' money? We want to know exactly what's going on. If there's an issue that he needs to play, then nobody's saying Mr. Morilal is guilty of anything, But Mr. Morilal has questions to answer, and the court will decide whether Mr. Morilal is guilty or innocent. But Mr. Morilal has to put forward his witness statement and go before the court. But you stolen everything, so send me as you can, just get over that. And then you want to go on political platform and talk about whole thing, and then the next thing too, how this man can be sitting down before Joint Select Committee and asking questions on other people when he matters before the court. It irks me when I see these things happen, But they like to tell us on both sides. But I can't see that happening with the PNM government. Because of the allegations and all the things against Franklin Khan and Marlene and all these things, they had to take a back bench and take a side and chill out. Even that it was proven that Eric Williams and Franklin Khan was a story made up to set up them further. But fortunately, that's how the politics works under the UNC, because they don't play by the rules. Them didn't care. These guys and them lost the job. And I can tell you personally, I know these two people and them. And I told them about that, and I tell them they will make jail, and we'll be talking. I say, listen, all the thing, and I don't think I get enough from that. And when they tried to explain to me, I didn't want to hear them. That was what made me get turned off for our UNC, and especially Kamala Prasad-Bissessing. The lady, she should not hold any public office. None at all. I can give you an example, I'll just give you one. Because her name called in the court with Franklin Khan and Eric Williams. Her name called. And she's still here going on. She oversaw the insults of Dr. Rowley, deceased parents. But you want to tell me about when they call her the Zami thing there? They are not here. But other people have issue with that, and Stuart Young should do this, and so that's a step down and all kind of thing. But what about Kamala Prasad-Bissessing facilitating that recklessness in the parliament under the parliament privileges to defame people that is not here to defend themselves? She had no proof or any evidence, anything. They try to make up all kind of thing, bring in pictures, anything. When Manning bring the pictures of she house, it was shut down by Wade Max. Or allow Vanilla and them to put up pictures and all kind of thing. The props and them that they say. That is how disgusting UNC is. And the same way Mark had no shame. Move from a speaker of the house and go on as a senator. That man have no shame at all, boy. The man like his name, he don't even protect the image of his name. Going down in the gutter. Man made serious lies as a speaker of the house. And because of the majority sat there, because with that kind of thing, that speaker has, he have broken the rules of a speaker, and he should have do the honorable thing and step aside and hand in his resignation as the speaker of the house. He didn't. He depended on the UNC under Kamala to use the special majority to keep him in his spot. And this is why people should be looking at, and that is why the defenders of the UNC, when they try to, to talk about the thieving of PNM and PNM thieving so much money and Rowley and them thieving money. Rowley and them thieving money, and as always ask them, so why Kamala and them didn't go after the explaining wealth and the factor bills and all these things? Or they could get a lot of Rowley and them always did thieving money. But so far, all I see who going before the court is UNC, and for things that they did under their watch. So when you're telling me about, we're only talking about Kamala, there's good reason to talk about Kamala, because the things that Kamala have done in the past, it affects us today. Those monies and them $134 million US, and how much I believe the Tobago terminal. I think it's around the same 130. So that money, we get our money, but think that could help us. We get terminal with our money. More planes to be able to offload in Tobago. That means more tourists, which will make more US and make more money for the country. But until all they can find any evidence of corruption on the PNM government, this PNM government, you all have no moral authorities to talk about anything. They're only just making up something with no sense about some million to that Honeywell talk about. By the way, what about Honeywell? She back out yet? And Honeywell says so I think, but I want to say, but the budget came and passed. The same Auditor General them reports had to go think for the budget to do the budget to go before the Parliament. Without the Auditor General overseeing she staff doing it, so she's supposed to be incompetent because I haven't heard the staff of them or through anybody, through any meeting there that complaining about something is wrong. The same thing she could carry, there was nothing wrong with it. She carried money that they're telling her because of the new system of online banking. That section of the accounts wasn't added and they need to put it in. And the fools and them and the UNC and them, they come in to tell you that money is stolen money. So Mr. Ember, together with the staff of the Ministry of Finance and the Treasury, they came together to take the money and to tell the Trinidad to be able to take the money so they're putting it back. That's the logic of them for us and them. Right? That's the logic of them. But they don't want to find out again where the wastewater treatment plant money gone. Money wasted. They don't want to tell us where the $16 billion gone from NGC. Money wasted again. They don't want to tell us about the OPVs. The money they got back from the OPVs. What they do with it. They don't want to tell us about, they didn't never even tell us about the money that the US contractors and then paid back to the United States government. The United States government take out the tax, stole the money and the balance they give back to Trinidad and Tobago. We never knew that happened until a change of government to come to tell us that I think it's Bill Kilmer, whoever the guy's name is, the United States government, the money seized from them, would have passed it back to Trinidad and Tobago. But they want to tell me that Rowley thief, Indo thief, Forest thief, everybody thief for them. But when you ask them kind of questions and you bring the proof, call them for them before the court. Nah, don't talk about that. Talk about something that they make up in the little tiny brain. And you run with that. Big lovely boy, later go.
Thank you, sir. Right, so 226. I saw there was a caller calling from 667. So if you want to call quickly, you could. I'll wrap up at 2:30. This Leon I'm seeing on YouTube, I think it's a new person. I don't recall seeing him before, but it's clear where his political allegiance lies. Uti for the materials from the Scarborough Hospital. Who did that? You have evidence of that, or we just pushing propaganda and talking points? Leon or Leo? Let's see what else you're saying here. Billion unaccounted for by PNM. Which billion? That has been dealt with in the central bank's progress report for the last quarter. You all wouldn't take the time to do your research and read and then come in on the live and talking nonsense. The $2.6 billion that you're referencing, which was a double entry, it was explained. It is in the central bank's report. Oh gosh, are they still coming with that stupid talk? Leon, why don't talk about the tell us about Eden Gardens now. Tell us about the 175 million that Kamala spent for a piece of land that was valued at 52. Talk about that. Tell us about the $88 million that they spent for the Eater food fence by the prison, the Golden Grove prison. Talk about that. That the only thing that garden is bush. No prisoners. And if you drive up inside there, there's a big space between where the fence starts and the prison. A car park in between. What was the purpose of that $88 million spent? Tell us about that, Naleo. Tell us about the $234 million that they spent for the whole warehouse, the massive warehouse, to turn it into a correctional facility to house people from the state of emergency. That was offered to Jack Warner but for $17 million. The same Jack Warner who want to go back with them now told us in 2015 that the late Bernard Dulal Whiteway offered him that building for $17 million. He said 17 is too much. He offered 13 and Bernard said no. And then the government paid 234. Tell us about that, Naleo. Tell us about David Lee, who is sitting in the parliament as the chief whip, opposition chief whip, who is on $1 million bail for fraud, conspiracy, and misbehavior in public office. Tell us about the other one from Kuvanot, who is under police investigation for human trafficking, prostitution, and other wrongdoings that he's alleged to have committed while he was sitting on the board of PTSC. Tell us about that. You ain't no talk about that, Leo? I spoke earlier about the man from the Princess Tong man who gave $135,000 to Prasad Bisasa and can't remember why he gave her that money. Tell us about that. No discussions about that. Tell us about the 20 million, well, more than that. The happiness campaign that they spent millions of dollars on to have ads and so on, to pay Ernie Ross to do ads to tell us what happiness means. As if we don't know what happiness means. Talk about that. The $1.1 million that they took from NGC to buy all-inclusive tickets for the South Cancer Fete, right? So they could give tickets to their friends and family members at your taxpayers' expense. You got one of those tickets, Leo? Tell us about that. Talking about who's disrespectful. Who more disrespectful than Rowley? Let me tell you who disrespectful. When it is that you, a man like you, Leo, assuming that you're a man, will come here and talk about who's more disrespectful than Rowley, but you have nothing to say about Anil Roberts saying that the former president, Paula May Weeks, right, an eminent jurist, a woman who would have worked hard in her profession, is more accomplished than Anna Roberts could ever be, could say that she was making appointments based on pum-pum politics, implying that the president of Trinidad and Tobago was a lesbian. That wasn't disrespectful. That wasn't disrespectful. When it is that what they did in the parliament, when they tried to impeach Paula May Weeks, and because the independent senators didn't support them, they went outside and maligned these senators and the kind of wajang behavior that we were getting in the parliament. That wasn't disrespectful. You supported that? Asking you. When it is Anna Roberts could make claims that the prime minister's wife, a woman of integrity who has devoted her life to supporting her husband and his pursuits, even when it came at the expense of her own, when she wanted to retire 5 years ago, but her husband wanted another go at it so that he could make sure that those new persons that he brought in were well-trained and the like. And they want to sully the woman's name and integrity by saying that she having an affair with some special branch police officer, a member of her security detail. That wasn't disrespectful. You supported that, but all you come in to talk about the disrespect Kamala and disrespect Kamala. But that was not disrespect to Sharon Rowley, a woman who remains, she's not about the limelight. She's there in the back, in the behind the scenes, supporting her husband. That interview that she did some years ago with Natalie Logo, talking about the struggles that she has to go through. And when she knows her husband is trying to do her best, and when it is she sees the nastiness that is being said on the UNC side, when they could make a picture with the prime minister's head superimposed on dog feces, That's not disrespectful. No, we applaud that. When it is that you have videos of UNC supporters taking a man taking his child to a petting zoo, and you see a donkey, and he's telling the child, "What is that? What is that?" And the child saying, "Donkey." No, that is Rowley. That is a Rowley. That's not disrespectful. That is respect. That's how you show respect, right? Calling the Prime Minister Wurawan and referring to his ministers as demons. That's respect. PNM Tiffin Pest rub the circus. You know that? When they went to rub the circus, whoever rubbed the circus, when they came out, the first thing they did, they show up, they pull out their party card. Did they do that? You see how many people from Central now? Anyway, I'm not even going down that road with you. But you see, it speaks to a dirty, filthy mindset. Right? Dirty, filthy mindset. That is PNM supporters doing that. Who are the car thieves? Who be thieving the cars and them and selling cars to people and then going back and thieving it? Which party do they belong to? Let me ask you that. Since apparently you know who have party card and they identify, they jump out the car and they say, hey, hold up, there's a stick up with PNM. Hand over the money. But you see, when you have something wrong with your mindset, you should go and check and see. Some years ago, 20 persons engaged in fraud, and they robbed the San Juan Lavantel Regional Corporation of over $20 million. Google it and see. Tell me if any of them is PNM. Tell me how many of them is PNM. I ask you. David Lee, who was on $1 million bail for fraud, he's PNM? The man who is being investigated for wrongdoing with respect to human trafficking, prostitution, he's PNM? The only minister in this country ever to be arrested and charged for murder, he was PNM? Tell me now. This is the stupidness all they like to push. PNM thing. But anyway, when Bob Lindquist said, the only government in this country's history to perpetrate such a fraud on the citizens of this country, who was he referring to? Not PNM, right? Not PNM. Was that? Yeah, PNM supporters, real dutish. PNM in office 9 years, and all we hearing is Kamala. No wonder the country in such a mess. No, the country in a mess in your mind. In your mind, the country is in a mess, right? But that is why we see an unprecedented development in this country. You went to any of the hospitals that Keith Rowley built? How many Kamala built, Leo? 1. How many Keith Rowley built? We have in Arima, we have Point Fortin, we have Sangre Grande, we have Roxborough, and we have the Port of Spain Central Block under construction. Defend that now. You have choice from Keith Rowley. Kamala Prasad Bisesa went move a hospital from that should have been built in Shogunas and put it behind God back in Cuba. To get a taxi to go there, if it is that you're taking in the night, you had to take a taxi to go wherever, drop out Presal, and then take another one from Presal to see if you could get there. But that making sense. But at least you had to go through that stress with Keith Rowley. 1 taxi, you need to go Arima. Point 14 if you're living in that area. Sangre Grande. Top-notch. Jack Warner praised the service. He described the Arima Hospital as the best kept secret in the Ministry of Health has. Kamala didn't build that. You travel on any of the ferries that Keith Rowley bought? Tell me the name of the one Kamala buy now, Leo. Which one? Which one did she buy? Tell me which PNM lawyer went to the court and asked the court to overturn murder as a non-bailable offense. Who was it that went and asked the court, yes, we want murderers or murder accused to be able to get bail? Who to blame for that? Leo? Keith Rowley? Yeah, because Jayanti Lakshmi Dayal and Anand Ram Logan are PNM lawyers? Help me with that one now, please. Who to blame when it is we should have been saving millions of dollars between 2010 to 2015 on rent? The same Faris Al-Rawi that they was bad talking when they continued to rent from him and renew leases. The $53 million that was spent for the building in Barataria that we can't find. Who to blame for that? Keith Rowley? All the loans that they took, Leo, all the loans that this government now has to find money to buy, to pay for. Who to blame for that? Keith Rowley? Who increased the overdraft on the exchequer account from 10 billion to 33 billion and put it in permanent overdraft? Who to blame for that? Keith Rowley too? Set of fools talking about based on race. Let me read this last one. PNM shame of the condition of this country, but only propping up right based on race. Really? The candidate, the PNM candidate for Quina Mondiablo, who almost put a licking on your UNC candidate. He got 900 votes in the by-election as opposed to the 300 votes that they got in the PNM got in the election last year. Who voted for of what race was he? Of what race was he, Leo? What race was he? Apparently, the PNM supporters didn't realize that he was a East Indian, and they gave him the 900 votes. Really? Who it is voted at when Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal, when she went up for St. Augustine last year? Of what race is she? The Minister of Works and Transport is of what race? And the junior minister in that ministry is of what race? Who it is have an issue with Stuart Young becoming the next leader of the PNM? It's not PNM faithful. It's people like Leo, Chopin. Who it is complaining, oh, the PNM is supposed to be a black man party, but look, Rowley only giving all the best ministries to the Indian. Who talking that stupid talk? Not the PNM. Who have an issue with Kazim Hussein? Kazim Hussein is of what race? Faris Arawi is of what race? Miss us with that stupid, doutish nonsense about race and PNM. Fed up purely talking that crap. Miss me with that. Nonsense. Okay.
Yeah. Hello?
Hold 1 sec, Mr. Yates.
Sure.
Tired all you're not doutish talk. Right, so I'll just take Mr. Yates and then I'll sign off for today. Because if I continue to engage this Leo, you know, there's a saying, there's an old saying, and clearly applies to this guy. Never argue with a fool because he will beat you with experience. And clearly, this individual is a fool. So I can't even argue with you. Waste that time. It's like trying to educate a rock. Mr. Yates.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with them. I wouldn't get into any issue with them.
Yes.
But I have one comment to make before you leave.
Mm-hmm.
So the Leo and the Vincent Basilio and all the others who view PNM as the most racist party in the country.
Most racist party in this country. Let me remind him of something. Coming from the mouth of the very lady herself. That is Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal. She went up for St. Augustine in 2020 while campaigning, and she told us that after.
That's right.
She said a whole Indian man came up to the road in St. Augustine and told her, quote, "You are a disgrace to your race."
That's right.
He told her that. A bright young Indian woman. Why? Because she went up for PNM. She went up with the African party. She went up with, as Indians say, Kilwal party. She went up with them. So she's a disgrace to her race. That is what a big old Indian man is telling to this beautiful young professional Indian woman who did the unthinkable by offering herself to the PNM party. So much for you all and your dotishness and your ignorance and your racism and your insecurity. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Where is this thing? Let me get this here. So, I want to read this for the benefit of right. Avinash Singh. I'm reading this for the benefit of Leo, who want to say PNM people is vote and based on race and property. Let me read this and remind you, since something wrong with you. This is Avinash Singh. Who is GOPIO and what do they do again? You be the judge. And he's quoting Kamla Prasad Bisesa speaking notes, 29th of June 2013. Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Lord Krishna tells us in the Gita, she quoting scripture, that to fight on the side of righteousness means sometimes you have to fight against your family and your kinfolk. And if that is what you encounter in this election, you must make the choice and fight for what is right and do your duty. Fight for what is right. The PNM has chosen one of your children from Felicity to fight against your party. He has made the wrong choice in standing as a soldier for the PNM. Instead of standing to fight for what is right and what is... Let me get this here. So one sec, caller. Let me just finish this. Instead of, she says here, he has made the wrong choice. in standing as a soldier for the PNM. I ask you tonight to show him his error and vote against him. Instead of standing to fight for what is right and what is best for Chaguanas West and Trinidad and Tobago, he chose the side of oppression and neglect. He embraced those who subjected you and him as well to the worst form of abuse and discrimination. And that is why you have to fight against him. You have to show him the power of the righteous. Where was this so-called GOPIO when that highly coded message was being spewed against me for offering myself as a candidate for the PNM in 2013? That's Avina Singh asking that question, right? What did she mean? Took one of your children. Who is your? So we're trying to say Avina Singh committed the ultimate sin by offering himself for the African Party because he was an East Indian. And you all continue to promote that racial nonsense. Look, I just saw an article in today's, and what did the newspaper, I think is the Express. PNM selected the candidate for Siparia, a teacher, an East Indian woman. Apparently, the party groups in Siparia didn't get the memo that you could only select persons of African descent. Elio, who voted based on race, right? But I bet she's going to get votes, so she may not be able to get sufficient to win the seat. Because that's Kamala there, and you know, because that is all your goddess, all your Maharani, your mother of the nation, and therefore you had to vote for her, right? That's why this guy could tell, what they tell Warner the other day, that make no sense to put you in Chaguanas West because whoever they put there, the UNC will win. And what they voting based on? What they voting based on? You feel Jolene John could ever be the political leader of the UNC? Huh? You feel Rodney Charles could ever be the political leader of the UNC? Wade Mark? Not a snowball chance. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Good afternoon.
I am asking, or calling, I should say, on these big contractors, Julian Sammy Coates, and all these people who do spare work. Not once have I heard any one of them saying, look, we'll do some little repairs and actually in this area. No cost government. And none of these UNC people will call and say, no, you patch the road for us. No, you would never do that. And these are companies that are making millions. They can't do a little charity and roads for instead of calling over the government, they're fixing this and they better do it. That's patching. They might mark services for the whole road, but patch the road, you know, without a cost for the government.
Yes.
You cannot practice. I find that this Diwali, they should do that. Either I'm sure they are Muslims or Hindus, these big companies, and they could do it as a charity. So the government will just offer just a gift to the people in the rural areas who will, I will share more their people then, or whatever, something better to see. Okay, make a real good show.
Thank you.
Bye.
And I agree with you, Carl, and I've said that before. They are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago too. So why they can't give back? Even if they tell the government here, what? Pay us for the material and we'll supply the labor for free. Or something. They wouldn't do that. Nah, they're not doing that. They ain't doing that. But I just want to remind Leo, the only reason why the UNC was able to win the Arima seat in 2010 was because PNM people voted for Roger Samuel, right? That's the only time. After that, is what happened. 2015 they lost, 2020 they lost. The only way they were able, and Roberts was able to win in Dabadi Omera is because PNM people voted for him. And they didn't care that the leader of the partnership was an East Indian woman. They voted, they went out. I have friends who are PNM supporters who come telling me stupidness, but give them a chance. And if it didn't work, we could go back to the PNM. PNM people did that. The only reason why the UNC People's Partnership was able to win in Lopino Bonnet West is because PNM people voted for the UNC. They didn't care that Kamla Prasad Bisesa, an East Indian woman, was the leader of the partnership and she was going to be prime minister. The only reason why they were able to win La Hoqueta Talparo is because PNM people voted for them. Right? All the seats that the PNM normally get. You feel any PNM person could win Siparia? You feel the PNM could ever win Chaguanas West? You feel they could ever win Faizabad and Oropuch East and Oropuch West? You know why they can't do that? Why the PNM cannot repeat what Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the partnership did in 2010? Is because you all are the ones who vote on race. So miss me with that BS, Summer, please. Miss me with that. check all yourself when you want to come at dotations or PNM people voting based on race. And ask yourself that question. Why the PNM can't get no 29 and 30 and 31 seats and seize UNC seats, stronghold seats that have been held by the UNC for the longest while. Tell me that now. Tell me that. Why it is that was it in 2015 or so? The candidate, the UNC candidate almost, or whoever was the candidate almost came close to beating Dr. Rowley just by a few hundred votes. You feel like it happened in Superior? Miss me with that. Folks, unfortunately, I can't take any more calls because I went over time, but I'll continue this discussion on Sunday. All right? We'll pick it up again on Sunday. Thank you all so much for joining me. I had to run because I have a Zoom meeting to attend, but we'll chat again soon, right? Enjoy the rest of your holiday. Don't overdo. Remember, right? Everything in moderation. Make I eat today, we can put it away for tomorrow. So, Veronica Jack, thank you so much. Rudy Nicholas, Dandy Sandiford, Sarah Richards, Donna Seeley. Thank you guys. We will chat again on Sunday. I go on.